ESPN Baton Rouge, and 1130 The Tiger. Alongside Jacob Hester, here's Charles Hanagriff.
Good afternoon and welcome to Hangin with Hester and Hanny. Alongside Jacob Hester, I'm Charles Hanagriff. Catching us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge or 1130 The Tiger in Shreveport and the large surrounding area. CST, if you're watching along with us, also on YouTube, 104.5 ESPN is the page. Please go subscribe if you haven't already. You want to catch highlights of past shows, you can do that too on the Hangin page. Paul O'Neill, our video producer today. Cade was our audio producer. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated, who's got lots of information about what happened yesterday and what may happen in the coming days where football scheduling is concerned. In the 1 o'clock hour, Hunt Palmer is with us. He's been watching lots of baseball. At 2 o'clock, Jen Hale covering the New Orleans Pelicans. They open up this afternoon.
We got a real game.
5:30, a real live game. And at 2:30, Reese Davis, the host of College Football Game Day, will be with us to talk about what's going on in college football. And what's going on in college football is the ACC making their move yesterday. We knew they were having a meeting. We thought that there was a possibility, even a probability, that they would move this decision to next week. Instead, the ACC decided to act, going to a 10+1 model. Notre Dame will be in for a full conference schedule. They will be eligible for the conference title. They will share their TV money. I'm sure that was first. Would you like to come in?
Sure, they offered it. Right?
Yeah, right. Without being prompted. They will go divisionless for the season, for just this season, and they will play one non-conference game. Now, this leaves the SEC and the Big 12. The SEC came out with a statement after that basically said, do what you want. We're not making a move before we're ready. Yep. It was somewhat similar to the Big Ten's statement several weeks ago, which was, hey, we're going to a conference-only schedule. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody else has to follow us. And the SEC said, no, we don't. And the Pac-12 followed them, and that was fine. And then we sort of thought there was a little bit of a coalition between the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC. We'll all act together. Well, that theory went out the window at about 3:30 or so, whenever it came out yesterday. And now the SEC is up to make a decision. And the question now is, does the league feel any pressure to act now in this same type of model so that some of these interstate rivalries between the ACC and the SEC can be preserved? Personally, I don't know that there's any more pressure on the SEC now than there was yesterday. For instance, these games that we're talking about are much more valuable to the ACC than they are to the SEC. If we're going to talk about strength of schedule for a minute here, Clemson playing the Citadel ain't going to do them any good. Virginia playing VMI is not going to do them any good. Louisville playing Western Kentucky is not going to do them any good. So I don't know that the SEC has to have these games. I know that they want these games. Yeah. There's a lot of tradition to these games, and especially where Clemson and South Carolina are concerned, there's certainly something to be said that the SEC might need that game more than the ACC. But overall, the SEC can go to 10 games, play in their conference, keep their own schedule, keep their own bye weeks, move their own championship, eschew the non-conference games, and they'll be just fine. Yeah. So I don't know that – I know it probably hacked the SEC office a little bit the same way when the Big Ten moved, but did it put any more pressure on them? I don't see that. Yeah. I see the decrease in the schedule of non-conference games hurting the ACC more than it does the SEC.
I think you're exactly right, because of when you look at the powers of who would play in that rivalry week there at the very end, and you start talking about some of these rivals, right? And you start talking about, Georgia Tech needs Georgia more than Georgia needs Georgia
By
Tech, right?
By
Florida State needs Florida. I mean, we could go up and down. Even Louisville needs Kentucky more than Kentucky needs them. I never thought we'd say that.
There's only one game that skews towards the ACC, and that's South Carolina Clemson. South Carolina Clemson is of much more stature than South Carolina. That's it.
Yep.
That's the list where the ACC is concerned.
And they did leave the door open for that. And if you look at this graphic, by the way, there's a ton going on in the top right corner. It's like as of July 29th. And then in the bottom right, it gives you the information there as far as non-conference games. And it has to be in that home state or in your facility at your stadium. And, of course, Georgia Tech, all the games that we've talked about. Well, you could do that because they're in the same state. And so that part of it, they did leave the door open in case the SEC does want to do something like that. But when you look at the other games outside of the rival games, okay, well, are we going to have 10 games for teams that don't have a rival in the SEC? Who would LSU play? Who would Texas A&M play? Because we realize that, Louisville and Georgia Tech and Florida State and Clemson, they got a built-in rival. That's great. That's fine. But, okay, what do you do with the other games? And so even though they left it open, is the SEC going to jump on that? Because, you've taken care of 4 of our teams. They can play in a home venue because you can keep that whoever the home game was supposed to be. But what do we do with the other teams? Now, Coach O's built a little different. He might say, I don't care. We'll go play Virginia Tech up in Virginia.
In a pasture.
That doesn't bother us. But what if you're Jimbo Fisher? What if you're Lane Kiffin or Mike Leach or whoever the coach might be? If I'm Mike Leach, do I want to go play Pitt up in Pitt at the end of the season? So those games don't make sense. That's where you've got a lot of figuring out to do if you want to have this non-conference game and have everybody play the same amount of games. And so the ACC tried to put a little stronghold on the SEC in that aspect, in my opinion, when they said, hey, it's got to be at your stadium or someone from your state, because not all these places obviously can have that.
And I don't know that short of the financial advantage, which may not exist, that there's any pressure on the SEC here. If you had the possibility of having a full stadium, which for the moment, let's go ahead and consider that even in November, that's not going to be a possibility of a full stadium. There was still only one of those rivalry games that was scheduled for an SEC stadium, and that's Georgia Tech. The other SEC teams were going on the road. So without a financial incentive, and without a competitive advantage scenario existing for really any of these schools, because if Georgia doesn't play Georgia Tech and they win the 10 games, they're going to be in the SEC championship game. They'll qualify for a playoff if we have one. Same thing for Florida. Kentucky's not going anywhere, and South Carolina's not going anywhere. They'll play their season. Yeah. They're not going to be in a playoff scenario. So where is – I don't get where this puts any type of additional pressure on the SEC at all. Now, there may be individual pressures. Georgia may call and say, listen, man, we'd really like to play Georgia Tech. There are a lot of things in the state that go into that rivalry, and same thing with Clemson, South Carolina, and so forth. But I don't see a competitive advantage. I don't see a financial advantage. I think the SEC is exactly where they were yesterday at this time. If they want to do this, that's up to them. I'll give you another question. The ACC has said they're going to start the second weekend, the weekend after Labor Day, which would be week 2, which could at this point be the 3rd week of the season. They're also moving the championship game back. Yep. So when exactly are these games going to be played? They're traditionally played the last week of the season. Well, what week is that? What the SEC has with a conference-only model is the ability to manipulate the schedule to the best of the conference without any outside factors. If they want to put the SEC championship game 1 week back or 2 weeks back, they don't have to worry about upsetting Georgia Tech or Clemson or Louisville. They can just do it. And while, I know Matt has made a big thing about the financial deals of getting rid of these non-conference games with the rental wins, and I don't disagree with his point. I think just as big of a point is in a conference-only schedule is the protocols. You're testing your ability to move games in the schedule from week to week without any outside influence. And the SEC has something that I don't think that any other conference, save maybe the Big Ten, has, which is the ability to play a conference-only schedule and not worry one bit about strength of schedule being an impediment to getting to the playoff. You win the SEC, you're going.
Yep.
The story.
SEC, you're exactly right. They don't have to sit there and watch. They don't have to watch what the champion in the ACC or the Big Ten or the Pac-12 or the Big 12. They don't have to worry about that. You take care of your business in the SEC, you're there. And chances are, if you're the second team in the SEC, you've got a damn good shot at being there as well. So if you play 10 conference-only games, you know you still got a shot. You've got a path. There's some look, and you think or everybody can do that. And that's not the case. We've seen undefeated teams not go to the championship game scenarios before from other conferences. Doesn't happen in our conference. And so I still think they have leverage. They can roll out a 10-game SEC schedule, not have any kind of non-conference ties, and you're going to be A-OK. I think we can all agree there. We've seen this happen before.
Now let's talk about, for a moment, the idea of a conference-only schedule with 10 games, because now you got to add 2.
Yeah.
Now, I'm as good as anybody about making jokes that, Alabama's going to get to play Vanderbilt twice, and LSU is going to pick up Georgia and probably Tennessee from the other side, only because the Chiefs and Ravens weren't available. But Ross Dellinger, who is going to be with us in the next segment, brought up an interesting scenario, which is that if they vote for conference only, the additional 2 SEC games would be the next 2 rotators on every team's schedule, which means that LSU would get Kentucky and Tennessee, and Alabama would get, yes, they would get Vanderbilt, but they'd also get Florida. I'll take that trade right this second. But the most interesting thing of the whole deal was Florida, who would draw Alabama and Texas A&M from the West, to which I say, that's good for you, okay? How many years did you stonewall on a balanced schedule in the 90s and into the 2000s because you had Steve Spurrier and you weren't worried about that? And how many times did LSU approach you and say, hey, listen, is there any interest in you guys maybe wanting to have a balanced schedule? And you always said no. Well, good. You get exactly what you deserve on this. And I'm dying for somebody to get screwed on this thing, like Florida would under this scenario, because it would finally, I think, further the conversation for a balanced SEC schedule, okay? Much as I've hated this pandemic, okay, as much distaste as I have for it, if one good thing to come out of this pandemic is on the other side, something I've been railing about since 1992, which is a balanced schedule in the SEC, then at least one good thing for you, Hanny, will have come out of it, because then they would say, well, wait a minute, this isn't fair. No kidding. Hasn't been fair for quite some time now.
And look, if they did this, when you look at the contenders, I think we can all agree Bama and LSU, top contenders. Don't give me that Texas A&M stuff here on this show. And so who would benefit out of those 2 teams? Well, it would be LSU with Kentucky and Tennessee. Nice teams, but neither one of those teams is Florida. And I realize the Vanderbilt aspect of it, but Bama would have the toughest game out of those 4 games. When you look at the East, for sure Florida. I mean, there's no question. Bama and Texas A&M. Georgia, Arkansas, and Mississippi State.
Georgia would be, under this scenario, Georgia is the big winner. They get to games that they will be
won
huge
already.
Favorites in, and Florida will get a game that they will be an underdog in, and at least a challenging game in Texas A&M. Georgia is not capable of losing to Arkansas, and I don't think that they're capable of losing to Mississippi State. Mississippi State looks a lot different under Mike Leach than they did the last time we saw them.
We could go to the 3rd floor, start just grabbing people, get to 11 people, and we might have a shot against Arkansas.
Right. But
I don't know who's playing quarterback. Not Moscona, but
Florida would be an underdog to Alabama regardless of where that game was played, and Texas A&M would at least be a competitive game. That's a game that you could make a case for either side. I think Florida would be favored, but you could make a case. Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about. Pell's starting up tonight. We'll keep our eyes open for any additional news that breaks during the show today, because if you blink and you're out of pocket for a couple hours, you might miss something, especially this week. Ross Dellinger, when we come back, we're brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. No matter how you are watching or listening to us today, we appreciate you being with us on YouTube. It's 104.5 ESPN on CST 1130 The Tiger. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, and on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny. We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
Reviews are a smart judge of character. If you see this, it's time to move on. But this? Now that's a keeper. Richards Honda is proud of our 97% customer satisfaction rating. Every day, we're stepping up our game to make you feel safe. From masks to social distancing to new ways to shop. Richards Honda is committed to fanatical customer care. Because when people call you the smart choice, you'd better live up to it. Visit us today, I-12 at Millerville Road and richardshonda.com.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business.
I'd make it available in dozens. Make that thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We'll find out about the SEC scheduling, and we got a full hour with Mike Detillier. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We are brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. With Jacob Hester, I'm Charles Hanagriff. Glad that you are with us, and glad that Ross Dellinger is with us. Delly, how you doing, man? Not a lot going on.
No, it's the slowest, lamest off-season I can remember, right?
Well, it was in April, for sure, when we were all sitting home doing nothing. Delly, now that we have some clarification from the ACC, and we had before from the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, what do you think the next move is for the Southeastern Conference?
Well, I think the presidents will meet today, and it's obviously a significant meeting where they will seriously discuss and potentially vote on a scheduling model. And at least according to some sources that knew about yesterday's SEC AD meeting, that model is one that includes 10 games, all conference games. It's not the only model, but it's certainly the one that it seems like the SEC is moving closer and closer to, and I think it was somewhat approved, maybe not unanimously, by the ADs yesterday. And because it wasn't unanimous, and because these are college presidents and they're unpredictable, who knows exactly what they're going to do today. But it, just from talking to people this morning, it feels more and more like they are going to make a decision today, that it's not going to be put off till next week. But again, I've learned something in this business, and especially just the last few weeks. You cannot predict these decisions with these conference presidents. In the ACC yesterday, I think surprised everybody by releasing something and deciding something. It was expected they were going to push their decision off. 3 weeks ago, the Big Ten did the same. Nobody really expected their presidents, to make that decision. So, who knows exactly what they're going to do. But what we know right now is they're meeting. It seems like a decision is imminent today on a scheduling model, and that preferred scheduling model, one approved by the ADs yesterday, is the 10-game conference only.
Ross, if you took a vote right now, is there any other school in the league besides the ones that have these interstate rivalries and LSU, which has Texas, that is in favor of a non-conference game being in this model?
That's a good question. I'll say this. Because of the virus case numbers, the issues with testing, uniform testing protocols, when you start talking about games outside of your conference, when you start talking about travel, there are a lot of these variables that college presidents don't want to take a risk on. And so even the ADs and presidents who are overseas schools who have marquee non-conference games, I'm not sure they're even for a model that includes a non-conference game, just because of all these risky variables. And I don't know that to be certainty, but whatever the presidents decide today, if they do decide something, they're going to announce it as a unanimous. And it probably isn't going to be, because I know that the ADs weren't necessarily unanimous. But to get back to your question, Charlie, I think even some of these schools with marquee non-conference games are for a conference-only schedule. And I think a lot of that is because of the flexibility it provides you, the uniform testing like protocols it gives you. The goal is to complete your conference schedule and play your conference games. That's the most important thing. So why potentially take a risk of that not happening by playing the non-conference games? And I think that's why this is a model that they've drifted toward here.
Ross, you and I have had the opportunity to interview, most of the presidents, and we know there's 14 of them, so you're going to have different voices. You're going to have different opinions. I'm curious your opinion. Is there an alpha in this room who is the guy who's kind of the lead voice? He's up in front of the room. Have you heard anything, as far as, okay, this is the guy that's pushing for this and he's trying to get people to follow him?
Not really. I'm sure there exists that. And I will tell you from talking to people within the league that what Greg Sankey recommends to the presidents, what he wants is probably going to be voted on. Greg is close to all the presidents, and I think the way he is leaning is probably the way maybe they are leaning. And Greg, like many out there, is a very cautious man who, again, is not going to take necessary risks to play non-conference games or to take the risk of playing non-conference games and potentially risk canceling, postponing, whatever, his conference games. That's the most important thing here. So I will tell you, he has a huge voice. I think the chair of the presidents is the Kentucky president, I believe. So he certainly would have a strong voice. He's the chair. Other presidents with strong voices, Mississippi State's president, Mark Keenum, is on the CFP selection committee. He is, from what I understand, is like many of the presidents, is close to Greg Sankey. So he would probably have a decent voice in the conversation as well. But yeah, that's, as far as ADs, Jeremy Foley used to be a huge voice in the SEC AD room. He's gone now. I don't really know if somebody's taken that loud of a role, but I can tell the SEC does vote in packs, kind of. There are the 8 to 10 bigger budget programs, and then the 4 to 6 smaller budget programs. And a lot of times, sometimes they do vote on those lines.
Ross, what is the Big 12's play if the SEC does go to conference only? And I know it's easy to say, well, they would go to conference only as well, but with only 9 games, unless you played somebody twice, it would put them at a particular competitive disadvantage if we make it to a postseason. What do you think their play is? They are scheduled to meet on Monday.
It wouldn't surprise me if the Big 12, the SEC does go conference, but if the Big 12 still has a non-conference element of their schedule that will probably include group of 5 games, maybe 1, maybe 2 that they would host. That's all I can think of, because it seems like of any conference, the Big 12 is adamant on playing 12 games and, getting, starting in like 3 weeks on week 0. It seems like they are adamant about getting the full games in and starting as early as possible, and everybody else seems to have this delayed approach and a truncated season and maybe a conference only season. The Big 12 seems to be gung ho in playing non-conference games and starting early. I think I want to say it was the Stadium, Brett Murphy reported yesterday that the Big 12 was looking at the 12-game model, 9 conference games and 1 non-conference, or maybe 9 conference games. So they would at least maybe keep that 1 non-conference, which again would probably be, everybody else goes conference only, it would be just a group of 5 game, But again, that seems kind of risky, just to play some throwaway game. But you might get a win on the mark. But I don't know if any of those non-conference games would be against a Power 5 team, because although the ACC has that +1 option for a non-conference game, you have to travel to the ACC's team's home state. So I think we're staring down the barrel here of a season that's going to include pretty much everybody playing conference only. It has the feel of it.
Delly, obviously we talk about the SEC and we talk about LSU here, but within the state of Louisiana, as you know, we've got teams in the Sun Belt, you've got teams in Conference USA, in the American as well, and you just mentioned it there, potentially everybody playing conference-only schedules. Do you think the Group of Five, is that almost their only option if everybody in the big boys, the Power Five, says, hey, we're only playing conference-only plus one game?
I think it's been pretty well reported, and I think some Group of Five ADs have just come out publicly. They're just following the lead of the Power Five. So yeah, if they all go conference only, they're probably, the Group of Fives will probably be the same, because I don't think it's worth necessarily Group of Five teams playing out of conference Group of Five games with another Group of Five. You play those big Power Five teams because you want to get that bye game money. If that's not available, again, I don't think you take the risk necessarily. But I've heard from a few Group of Five ADs talking to other Group of Five ADs that are out of conference, maybe putting together something. So maybe you see some non-conference games, but I think they would drift toward what the Power Five does, which is seen more and more likely, predominantly conference-only schedules.
One of the things that's crazy with that, as you know, if you're, say, a Louisiana Tech, you can almost throw a rock to Louisiana Monroe, but you're in two different conferences. And so Louisiana Tech could potentially, travel to somewhere like El Paso or Birmingham when they've got a team that is 15 minutes down the road. And so there's some scenarios that actually make more sense for those teams to play each other, opposed to Louisiana Tech having to go play Marshall. I don't know if you know, that's not very close, Ross.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. And I have heard that there's more of you might see maybe some regionalized Group of Five non-conference games against one another. Again, it's the risk. You want to get in your conference games. They're most important. And so, do you risk loading up your schedule with a couple of throwaway non-conference games that you're not getting some big payday from, that might impact your schedule and the flexibility of your schedule? I think a lot of administrators are thinking about that.
Ross, we appreciate your time. We'll likely be in touch. There's stuff going on,
All right, guys, no problem.
Follow him at Ross Dellinger on Twitter, or Delly with Sports Illustrated. We'll take a break. We've got more to come here. Also, later today, Jen Hale and Reese Davis will join the program. That's in the 2 o'clock hour. This is Hangin' with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny. Off the Bench, Hanging with Hester and Hanny. After further review and more are all live daily on the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube page. Subscribe now to interact with us inside the live chat. Find highlights for each show's channel and get notified whenever we go live.
Our family of restaurants are fired up, and we can't wait to see you safely. Little Village downtown. Call or go online for offerings and hours. Palermo Ristorante. We're serving great food right now. Little Village on Airline. Reward yourself. Stabs in Central? Nice. Stabs Prime on Jefferson. Steak or seafood? Introducing Sammy's Grill on Highland Road. We're socially responsible from a distance.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is a local bank with a straightforward philosophy.
It's about doing the right thing for our customers.
Participating in our community with annual local fundraisers. Offering individual attention in a modern banking atmosphere with a trusted local company. Gulf Coast Bank invested in technology with a local touch, giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime.
We're building relationships through personal service as the bank that cares about you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals.
But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's a Thursday edition of Game Time with Jimmy Ott and Ben Mintz. We're live from Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar from 6 to 8 p.m. It will be happy hour and we'll be watching the Pelicans. Come say hello or tune in to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Got some questions out of the Bayou Ford Huddle, and also if you want to talk with us in our chat on YouTube, you can do that as well. The question was, and we get this a lot, or versions of this a lot, what's the additional risk of LSU playing Texas as opposed to, say, Tennessee? And it's a reasonable question. And the answer is, if you're talking about Texas and you're talking about Tennessee, the risk is probably the same. You're talking about two big budget programs. You're talking about teams that have every resource to do all the available testing, and the distances really are not all that terribly different. So if you're just talking about Tennessee and Texas, there's really probably not. But if you're talking about the difference between Texas and Texas San Antonio, then the deal, or Tennessee and Texas San Antonio, then the differences become quite drastic in regards to universal testing. So then you say, well, then only schedule non-conference teams that are out of the Power Five, which has been discussed. This is essentially what the ACC is doing. I don't know that there's going to be games with the Citadel that are going to be included in this, but that brings its own pitfalls as well. And the biggest one is adjustments to the schedule. If you schedule somebody out of conference and then all of a sudden, let's say South Carolina was playing Clemson, and let me do a better one than that. Georgia's playing Georgia Tech. I'm going to put somebody that's in contention. Okay. Right. So Georgia misses their game with Florida because that's the week that there's an outbreak. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Georgia's got to make this game up with Florida. I mean, that game, if we're going to have a championship game, that game has to be played. But that's the week that the outbreak canceled the game. So now you want to move it to the end of the season, and Georgia Tech says, whoa, wait a minute. We got a game here. We got a contract. You got to play us. Well, then when do you play Georgia and Florida? If you don't have to clear this with another conference, then you just say, listen, guys, we got to move things around here. We got to move a game back, or we got to add this to the end. We'll make it right for our conference. We don't have to worry about what it does to Georgia Tech or Louisville or Florida State. That's the bigger issue here, I think, than just general risk to traveling to Knoxville as opposed to Atlanta, as opposed to, I know Texas is coming here, but, going to Austin in a given year. It's about uniformity. It's not really about level of risk, I don't think.
Yeah, like we were talking about last segment, why it makes sense for Louisiana Tech to play UL Monroe and not have to go to Marshall. But, to your point, where they're going to have the same protocols in place, they're going to have the same schedule in place when you're talking about the same conference. And it's a great point because teams right now are trying to create different cushions in their schedule for them to be able to move stuff. And it would be much easier in that cushion if it was a conference game and not a non-conference game, because you can do almost anything. I mean, we've seen South Carolina in the same week have to come here because of a hurricane. We've seen, Florida come here, and LSU had to return those 2 trips in a row. We all know that story. So we've seen that within conference, and it's just much easier because you have the same protocols in place. You have the same rules in place. And so I agree with you right now. And if you only have the SEC games, then you really have the flexibility to do whatever you want, especially now we don't know this, but especially if there's no fans, then that's almost seamless. It's just, and then it becomes just about the travel of it and having enough time to get ready for your opponent.
And that's essentially what Ross was saying. So just kind of to, emphasize the point again.
But if you want to have another point to it, though, the other person in the conversation could say, yeah, but in Louisiana, you're going to have the same protocols in place, the same numbers. So if Louisiana Tech and UL Monroe ended up playing, and they might not have the same in Kentucky if they go play Western Kentucky. So you're going to have those conversations as well. Yeah, they're in the same conference, but the protocols in different states are completely different. Like, we know within our own show, like, we know that we have listeners from Tennessee, we have listeners from Georgia, we have listeners from Florida, right? Well, their conversation inside the Bayou Ford Huddle is always a little different because they have different rules than we have in Louisiana. So that's something else that you could run into, different protocols. And so these teams would have to find out exactly what the protocol is for every state they're playing in, and it could be different that way, even if you do have a uniform testing policy within your own conference.
Another anonymous user says worrying about playoff implications is pointless at this point. If we get to the normal criteria, the normal criteria will not be used to the letter like in a regular non-COVID world. And that had me longing for a non-COVID world. But while he's correct, this is so far off in the future. But I do believe that this is coming up in these conference calls, that we need to get to a certain number of games. For instance, if the Big 12 decides to go conference only, it's 9 games. Well, you get a 9-0 team against a 10-0 team. Yep. Well, that decision probably is already made before they get to the committee. Again, is that worrying about something that's step 692 and we're on step 4?
Yeah.
I love Apollo 13. But I promise you that's at least being considered now.
Who was it we had on? I think it was James Laurinaitis when he was talking about, I wonder what it's going to look like if the Big Ten's only able to get 8 games in and the SEC has 10, or vice versa, or whatever it might be. What if you have a team like an Ohio State? They're 7-0 and they've already got wins. We don't know the schedule exactly, but say they had wins against Michigan and Penn State and Minnesota already, but they've only played 7 games. And there's a team, the Florida Gators they're 9-0, but they haven't played Georgia or Alabama or whoever, whatever the schedule might have played out. That's where you're going to really get in trouble if you start looking at, man, they only played 7 games. They played 9, but damn, in those 7 games, they beat better teams than that team did in those 9 games.
If you had to bet right now that there will be all teams in the Southeastern Conference that play the same number of games, or that there is some variance in the number of games that they play right now.
Within the same conference?
The Southeastern let's say the Southeastern Conference comes out today and says, all right, 10 SEC games for everybody. We're starting on September the whatever. what do you think the odds are that every one of those teams plays 10 games?
80%.
I'm not even that sure. I would have said maybe 50-50. I think we have to.
I mean, I guess I'm probably somewhere in between there, but because there could be at the end of the season, maybe there's a spike in one state and it's South Carolina and Vanderbilt,
and they just say the heck with the last 2 games.
You know what?
Yeah,
you're good.
Right, you're done. I think it's probably 50-50 at best at this point, and I think we probably need to prepare ourselves for the fact that there's a real good chance when we get to December the 15th that we're going to be talking about teams that have played a non-like number of games. That's very, very possible, if not likely at this point.
What do you think the number of weeks in between games will look like? Do you think there's going to be a stretch where you have 3 games in a row, 3 weeks in a row, then you have 2 weeks? I mean, what's that going to look like? Because that's very important with how many weeks and how much flexibility you have and all those things.
I would think that if you had to go to a scenario where a team was forced to miss 3 consecutive weeks, I think the outbreak would be such that they might consider canceling their season. If it was, because you're talking about a 2-week quarantine period for minor outbreaks. So if you did that and you got past that, you got past your quarantine period and you said, nope, still not ready to go, then I think that would create a scenario where possibly that team was done for the year. They're talking about that with the Marlins right now. That they had another guy that they found this morning that tested. I think they're up to 19 now.
19, yeah.
And at what point do they say, okay, we're going to proceed, but the Marlins are done? That could happen.
It could happen, and that's something that we talked about when this thing first came out. They could shut the Marlins down. Real quick inside the Bayou Ford Huddle before we take this break from Stephen Miller. Why can't the NCAA have a blanket test protocol for all teams, eliminating, well, it's the ACC test more than the American, the SEC, so all the different conferences? It's because of money. It is a lot of money to test all of these student athletes, and so the SEC and the ACC and all these conferences, well, they're going to have more resources to be able to test every day, every other day, whatever they want to do. It's just the fact of the matter is the Sun Belt won't have that.
Right, and they did.
The Southland won't have that.
They were working towards universal minimums at one.
That has to happen.
Yeah,
you have to have a minimum goal set, a minimum barrier. Say, hey, you have to at least do this, because look, if you don't have the money and you're sitting there and you're crunching numbers and you're like, I've already had to let go 7 people. We got to figure out a way to be able to afford these. I mean, that conversation is going to come, but you still have to have a minimum so you know that they're doing at least the bare minimum.
And if you're making your budget at UL Monroe, you're making it less $2 million because you're going to lose 2 games against Power 5 teams that were going to pay you right at 7 figures.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about blow a hole in the budget up in Monroe? I mean, my goodness, it's not an insignificant part of what they're trying to do up there.
All of our listeners in Monroe and 11:30 a.m. the Tiger, we're just using you as an example, by the way.
Well, I was using them because they
I keep using them today too.
Well, because they have 2 games against SEC schools.
Yep.
And that's the conference that we're talking about. Take a break here. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
Gotros Outdoor Power want to help out all of our first responders, all of our fire, all of our police, all of our medical workers. The folks at SCAG are offering 15% off MSRP. That is all of your first responders that are active or retired. Turf Tiger, the Freedom Z, all of your zero-turn mowers, 15% off of your MSRP from SCAG. And every time you buy a unit from SCAG, it's going to come with that 5-year Power Plus warranty that makes 5 years of worry-free mowing, plus free delivery. Gotros Outdoor Power for all your property maintenance needs with 2 locations.
Airline at Industriaplex in Baton Rouge, Airline 74 in Gonzales. Of course, you can always check them out online, GotrosOutdoorPower.com. One of the things, like Hanny mentioned, they've got something for you. They've got a SCAG to fit your lifestyle, if it's residential, it's commercial, or if you're kind of in that in-between, they've got you covered there as well. That, again, GotrosOutdoorPower.com. That's Gotros. We make it easy.
The NBA is back. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers.
Tip-off tonight, immediately following Jimmy Ott's Game Time at 8.
The NBA is on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, We've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All Star Toyota today.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, if not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
Get an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Coming up on Friday's OTB, a huge day as we recap Pelicans Jazz and welcome Pelicans GM Trajan Langdon to the show. Plus the latest on the SEC potentially going conference only. And Cole Kubley talks college football. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Phillies and Jays has been canceled over the weekend, not because any Philly players tested positive, but because a member of the coaching staff and a member of the clubhouse staff tested positive. Now we're starting to get into the possibility that things will be shut down without players being tested. And when you talk about the possibility of players infecting other people, we thought that risk was fairly low among the players to players. But the risk was always, what about older coaches? Well, now they've shut the Phillies down, at least for the weekend, because of members of the coaching staff. Well, if the younger people aren't necessarily passing it to each other, and they might be, but the football teams have done a pretty good job with this. But what happens when somebody on the staff, well, this is what baseball's doing for this.
Yeah, because we heard yesterday that there was no Phillies players that tested positive, and so when this news came out today that they had 2 positive tests, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought they didn't have any players, because I just assumed, I'll be honest with you, I just assumed, okay, well, it's a player. No, it's not. It's a coach and a member of the home clubhouse. And, them shutting everything down because of that, does that surprise you in any way that, a player wasn't the positive test and now they're shutting it down because of a coach?
A little bit.
Me too.
You would have been able to quarantine these 2 people and the team would have been able to take the field, but now they all have to test again, right?
Yeah.
The Phillies all have to test again. Yes, I would think it would be easy enough. I mean, 19 members of the Marlins I get, okay? A clubhouse guy and a member of the coaching staff. Well, you're sick. You go home. Who else was infected? You got to go get tested. And maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is they were all in contact with this coach, with this clubhouse member, and so now they have to, was it 4 days? We're talking about 4 days, right? Through the weekend. I guess that's what we're talking about here. But yeah, that's how thin the margin is.
And we thought player-wise, because remember, we were talking the other day, okay, well, the first baseman's probably going to be masking up, because we just all assumed it was going to be a player. So I'm surprised they didn't say, okay, we're going to quarantine, test every player again, no negative tests. We're going to continue with the Phillies-Blue Jays series. A little surprised they're not doing
maybe
that.
that's what they're doing. They're saying, hey,
could,
you found these tests, you're shut down for 4 days. 4 days is through the weekend.
They're supposed to have a doubleheader on Saturday and, of course, a game on Sunday as well. It looked like they have both been postponed, all three.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is a local bank with a straightforward philosophy.
It's about doing the right thing for our customers.
Participating in our community with annual local fundraisers, offering individual attention in a modern banking atmosphere with a trusted local company. Gulf Coast Bank invested in technology with a local touch, giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime.
We're building relationships through personal service as the bank that cares about you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Do you know the proper way to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your office? We do. We're Janny King, a leader in the cleaning industry for over 30 years, and we've developed comprehensive programs to address proper cleaning and disinfection. We have experience in applying disinfecting programs in hospitals, office buildings, schools, and other venues. Now we're ready to help and able to assist customers that need disinfecting services.
Janny King, the king of clean.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
At All Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All Star Toyota today.
Callahan Injury Lawyers. Now, Hangin with Hester and Hanny with Jacob Hester and Charles Hanagriff. Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger. Alongside Jacob Hester, here's Charles Hanagriff.
Hour number 2, Hanging with Hester and Hanny and Hunt.
That's me. I don't know if my mic's on because I can't hear anything. Am I on?
Oh, yes. You're on.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're on.
It's the volume. You turned it to the right.
Well, at least I have the mic this
That's
time.
true.
We didn't have that Tuesday.
That is very, very true.
Took Hunt.
There's no mouse in your pocket. It was just you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Took Hunt less than a week to disown the Cubs. First
That's
thing
not
walks in
true.
says, I
Yeah.
haven't watched a game in 3 days. I'm done. After they
watched
lost
a
2.
game since they lost 2. They're
Yeah.
4-2.
No, the 2 games I
No.
haven't watched, they lost. I didn't watch. I was playing golf
I
on
can't
Saturday.
wait till baseball comes back. I'm going to watch every pitch. Misses the last 2
well,
games.
just to be fair, I have watched some of them as the early going, and then when they get behind a lot, I just don't have. I don't want to watch it.
Front runner.
Yep.
I was about to say.
You got a good quote that we were actually talking about in the little impromptu meeting we had yesterday after the show, because Besh made coffee that was hot for once, and
Yes.
we all were able to
shocked.
sit around. Give me this tweet. It's not really a quote. It's a tweet.
Stuart Mandel does a great job for The Athletic. Once fans get a taste of a 10-game conference schedule with few or no bye games, they're never going to want to go back to what we had before coronavirus.
So something similar happened in the early 2000s when 11-game schedules were the norm. And they found 2 years in the schedule where there were 14 Saturdays between Labor Day and the end of November. And they said, well, we can have 2 byes and we can have 12 games. And that worked so well, and they got the money from that, and the athletic directors were like, well, let's stay at 12 games. And we've been at 12 games ever since. I think, and I disagree with Mandel on a lot of things, but I do think he's on to something here, but I don't think it's the fans. I think it's the TV money. And we had this discussion yesterday. If you asked Joe Average fan, would you trade the Northwestern, it's Nichols this year, the Nichols State, sorry, Kate, the Nichols State game, the Texas San Antonio game, and the Rice game for 2 games that were against either your conference or Power 5, and you went back to 11, or even if you went to 10, let's take the one Power 5 they're not playing. 10 games. Would you rather have a 10-game schedule with all conference teams, or would you rather have what they have now? And that's what ESPN comes to the table and says, listen, rather than paying you X amount of dollars for these 3 games, we'll pay you this much money for 2 good games instead of 1 good game and 3 bad ones. And if ESPN makes that move, then the athletic directors and the conferences will follow suit. That's where the big change came from the last time. But if you told me that LSU could swap out Rice, Nichols, and Texas San Antonio for just 1 more game against a Power 5, count me in.
And so I know that Hunt and I are going to have different opinions on this, and I'll go first. I realize, as Hunt, and I've talked about so many times on this show, I'm a meathead. I'm competitive. I want to play against the best. I don't need to ever play against directional school ever again. I don't need to play against Fresno State ever again. I didn't as a player.
We hate those games.
I'll be honest with you.
As fans, we hate those games.
As players, we didn't like them either.
Right.
A lot of people are like, oh, you get your stats up. That's a stat game. I don't care about that. That's not what I care about, because those stats in those games, they don't really mean anything. I don't care how many touchdowns I ran for against Middle Tennessee State. I just don't. Now, the in-state games are a little bit different when you play Louisiana Tech and UL Lafayette. Because
Is that just because you broke that long run against La Tech?
No.
Oh,
No.
I want to be honest. That's why. That's good.
it's not your turn yet. Even a game like against Tulane, we struggled in that game in Superdome in 07 for the first half. But still, you played against high school against those guys. There's some state pride. I'm more okay with those than the others. But if those went away, I got the Power 5 SEC games, I'd be okay with it. Because as players, you try to do everything the same way. I try to prepare for Tulane like I did for Florida, but it just doesn't happen. Organically, it just does not happen. You're going to have an extra walkthrough on a Thursday that's player-driven. And it's not like you're not trying to prepare for Louisiana Tech, but that's just the way it is. You're playing against Florida. Man, Brandon Spikes is going to do this. Reggie Nelson's going to do this. I got to be ready for this. And so you raise your level of play in those games. And, if the other games went away, as players, I promise you, it wouldn't hurt their feelings.
Hon, it's your turn now.
Okay, so I don't claim either side of this is right or wrong. There are a lot of arguments that we have where we think somebody's right and somebody's wrong. Some point is right, some point is wrong. That's not how I feel about this. I just have a preference. I like the layup games. I'm in the vast minority because the only thing I care about when LSU reports to practice every August is winning the national championship. That's what I'm here for. And there are a lot of fans that they would rather play huge names and have the whole day on campus and tailgate. And you know what? Sometimes we're going to win, sometimes we're going to lose. And it's fun. I'll just rather take the big games and the huge energy. I'm trying to navigate this thing and get to the end. And for me, having those layup games where I can suspend somebody who did something stupid in the summer or rest a star player who's on a gimpy ankle or get backup players some experience in case I need them down the road, I see some value in them. And it's stress-free for me because I know we're not going to lose, and I hate when LSU loses. That ruins my week and at times my year when it's the second game. So I see all the merit in what everyone says. I just don't agree. I like it the way it is.
Okay, overruled.
For sure, that's fine.
And in the Bayou Ford Huddle, a lot of people saying, well, Fresno State was actually good back then. They were, but that's my point. That's going to even hammer home my point even more. Fresno State wasn't a bad football team. The year before, they pushed Reggie Bush and USC to the brink of a loss, and they didn't finish it, but they were right there. It still doesn't matter. It just, as a player, you don't have the same feeling playing a Fresno State as you do even a Mississippi State.
My counter to that is if I have to take Tennessee and South Carolina off my schedule to add Texas San Antonio, Rice, and Tulane, I want to do that because I'm going to win those 3 games, and I might lose one of those other 2, which could wreck the season.
I don't think that it's worth the benefits that you're talking about, and I don't think that it's worth the occasional time where a team like Fresno State pushes a USC. Michigan could play App State 100 times, and App State's going to win 1. It's not worth me sitting through the other 99. Now, there are degrees of tolerance with these games. For instance, if this season had played out the way that it was scheduled, there would have been at least some anticipation for Texas San Antonio only because it was first, because you would get to see Miles Brennan start a game, because you would get to see all the freshmen for the first time. But by the time they got to the Nichols game, we would have rather done pretty much anything other than watch LSU play Nichols in November. The rent-a-win games in September are mildly irritating. They're like preseason NFL games. Mm-hmm. But the ones in November are absolutely unbearable. I mean, to go in and watch in week, 10, I believe, or 11, LSU play Nichols.
And LSU's
or South Carolina play the Citadel.
LSU's performance in those games have been poor. Louisiana Tech had the ball down, I think, 1 score a couple of years ago. I remember Towson was close in the third quarter.
That was bad.
You get what you pay for.
05, we beat Troy. We scored with 2 minutes left to take the lead. We played against App State. It was a 21-0, I believe, game, but it wasn't a 21-0 feel. I mean, so those games, that's kind of my point.
So why would when you say you get what you pay for, why continue to pay for it?
Because I can't lose. Because all I care about is not losing.
I've used this analogy before, but it's akin to when I was a kid. My grandfather loved professional wrestling, so I grew up watching professional wrestling in the late 70s and even into the early part of the 80s. And what they had was usually in an hour of professional wrestling, they had probably 5 or 6 matches. And 4 or 5 of those matches were what they called squash matches, where they just bring in some guy and the superstar would just spend 10 minutes beating him to a pulp, and then you'd have one good match, okay? And then Vince McMahon came up with the great idea, hey, everybody hates the squash matches. Let's just have good matches, and wrestling took off in the 80s. And it was a brilliant idea, and so they don't have squash matches anymore. And if you looked back now and you said, hey, let's have a squash match. Let's have the superstar, beat up on some guy that they just pulled off the street. Nobody wants to watch that. And it took McMahon saying, hey, let's give them what they want. They'll come in greater numbers. They'll pay more money for it. And he started, making you pay for wrestling, and then, wrestling took off. The football thing is the same way, okay? You tell the average LSU fan that they don't have to pay for the games against Texas San Antonio Nichols anymore, and you can charge them twice as much money, and you're going to bring USC or Michigan in here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? It's going to be a better product. They're going to make more money in the long run, especially if the TV networks do what I think they're going to do. Would we say earlier, if one good thing could come out of COVID, if COVID gets us a balanced schedule in the SEC and puts an end to the rental wins, somewhere down the line, I may have looked upon this as, a worthwhile exercise in getting the sport fixed.
The one thing, too, that we're not really talking about, because I do understand your point, Hunt, about trying to get to the national championship. That's all you care about. If you went to conference only or Power 5 only or whatever we're talking about, right, no more rental wins. Also, the criteria to get into the college football playoff would change. It wouldn't be you have to be undefeated or you maybe have to have one loss. I think that would change a little bit. You would see potentially a team with 2 losses if you had a 10-game schedule or whatever it is,
well,
right?
You'd have to jack up the playoffs. I mean, you'd have to way expand the playoffs.
Which that inevitably that's going to happen. I believe. I don't want now. Y'all know I'm in the minority as far as I like 4 right now because we fought so long to get 4, but that would change. I mean, do we not agree that will change?
Yes. I don't know that it's going to go to 16 close, in our lifetime, but I could see I can see it getting to 8. And all of the criteria changes. We're still on this same, if you got 1 loss but you played somebody really good, it was at Oregon, it was 2 years ago, it played and lost in one of those games to Auburn. The year they lost to Auburn. And yet, if you had played Portland State instead, well, and I don't want to watch Oregon play Portland State. I want to watch them play Auburn. That's me. So if you're looking for something good to come with this, and I understand that this would be a big detriment to all of those smaller schools that don't get these paycheck games. It's a cost of doing business. Okay, Division I's got too many teams in it as it is. That's just the reality. They're not supposed to be playing. The Nickel States of the world are not supposed to be playing the LSUs. They're just not. And we've been forced to sit through that and pay for that. And I think once people see that there's a better way to do this, and the TV networks have to pay for it. That's where the money comes from. They do that, you might get the athletic directors to follow along. I can remember being a high school senior in 1988 when LSU played in non-conference schedule, Texas A&M, Ohio State, and Miami. And the 4th one was Tulane, which was just a traditional rivalry game, even though Tulane wasn't very good. That was an entertaining season. And that team, Hunt Palmer, won the Southeastern Conference.
How'd they do in the non-conference?
They got beat 44-3 by Miami, so not as good. Okay. But they did okay against Texas A&M.
We also had some people in the huddle talking about would the coaches enjoy this? Did the coaches enjoy the rental wins? I can tell you, when a coach has a game, especially if it's sandwiched in between, let's say, Mississippi State and Florida, just 2 conference games, and it's scheduled in between there, they worry about that game in the middle so much, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is. I go to practice almost every day, and these coaches are like, hey, we don't care about the opponent, it's about us, and all. And they have to continue to preach that, continue to try to make that practice look the same. And so it is a battle for them. Now, the X's and O's part, it might be a little bit easier, but the mental part of it, they probably coach more on it's about us and focus and all that more that week than they do any other weeks in the year.
Take a break. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
When you want the best of Louisiana, you don't go to a superstore. We know what we like, and we like it local. Same goes for banking. As one of Louisiana's largest local banks, we offer homegrown services crafted around you. Gulf Coast Bank, the bank that cares about you.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, if not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We'll find out about the SEC scheduling, and we got a full hour with Mike Detillier. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
And we're also on CST. You can watch us on our YouTube channel, 104.5 ESPN.
Hungry Howie's bringing you Hangin with Hester and Hanny and Hunt every single Tuesday and Thursday. Talk to him over at Hungry Howie's. The 51% off they ran a couple of weeks ago, biggest week of the year so far in 2020 for Hungry Howie's. So thank you all for showing up.
Let's go.
Still got some great deals going on at Hungry Howie's. 3 medium one-topping pizzas for $15. That's $5 a pizza. Can't beat that deal. Also, a large 2-topping, just $7.99. Both of those come with that free flavored crust. Go with the ranch. It's my personal favorite these days. Get that Hungry Howie's app. You can earn points towards getting free pizzas if you download the app. They're available for delivery and carry out. They're on Nicholson, just south of campus, right there at Lee. Hungry Howie's and hungryhowies.com, bringing you us.
At Ogeron yesterday, we saw the quote, but this is the actual soundbite about Bo Pelini.
So excited that Bo Pelini chose to come back. As you know, Bo had some of the top defenses in the SEC in the country. We're a 4-3 defense. We're an attacking defense. I felt that that's what we needed to change from a 3-4 to 4-3 because it fit our style and also fit our players.
Jacob, you touched on this yesterday, that this is just in Ed's comfort zone of what he wants to do defensively. So I'm going to ask you to expound on it a little bit more and some of the things that you think they can do with this defensive personnel.
Just when you look at who Bo is and what he's done his entire career, and kind of my theme yesterday was he's going to be the aggressor. He's not going to be the counterpuncher. He is not going to wait to see what you do. He's going to bring the fight to you, and we all know Coach O loves that style. And I realize you do have some 3-4 personnel, and how do they translate, to a 4-3 defense? The transition there, let's not worry about that, because when we had Bo Pelini on our show a couple of weeks ago, well, I guess that was a couple months ago now. Time seems a little different there, Hanny.
I understand.
Yeah, so when he was on, he's like, look, it's not like I haven't done these things before. It's not going to be, hey, we're going to line up in a 4-3 under defense with a Sam linebacker on the line of scrimmage. No, we're going to be a multiple defense. Are we going to have 4-3 principles? Yeah, you bet. But he's like, I've done everything. If I feel like a 3-4 in this front is going to help us in this game, in this scenario, we can do that. And so I think you put too much into – okay, well, he was recruited to be a zero nose. Look, Tyler Shelvin, who Cole Kubelik of the SEC Network, who breaks down line play better than anybody I know, has him as his top interior defensive lineman in the conference. He's going to thrive at whatever you put him at. If he's playing a 3, if he's playing a 1 shade. And Bo Pelini said that. He goes, hey, if you're playing a shade, you're playing a shade. It doesn't matter if you're playing a shade on a center or a guard. If you're playing a shade, we are going to ask you to do A, B, or C. And so I think a lot of people put too much stock into, well, personnel has been recruited for a 3-4, because in the way college defenses are now, I don't think that's going to be as important, and you're going to do multiple things. But going back to my original point, being the aggressor, being that team that brings guys from multiple areas and multiple levels, and you're switching guys in and out. My best example yesterday, Hunt, was Chad Jones. Chad Jones wasn't a starter in 2007. Craig Stelz and Curtis Taylor were your starting safeties. But there was a role for Chad Jones to come in, and when he came in, he was going to be the aggressive safety who did, the X factor things. And, we typically didn't see that, the past couple of years. And so for me, Bo Pelini is going to have a role for guys like that, to bring them in, and their only role is to, hey, you're going to be the guy who blitzes off the edge, who blitzes up the middle, who, is man coverage because they've got Pitts at tight end, and he's a really good player, and our safeties don't match up with him, but you do in this scenario, in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I start to think of some of the guys who are going to have a role on the defense. Like, I think that you're going to Jacoby Stevens is the first one that comes to mind as somebody that doesn't necessarily have just a keyhole that you fit him in. I hear the name B.J. Ojulari all the time, and that's a guy that they really like on the edge a little bit. Kerry Vincent is, of course, going to play a lot of nickel. And when you start talking about 4-3, 3-4, they're going to be in nickel and dime more than half the time anyway. That's just the way that they play defense in this era, and that's the way the conference is going. So I don't put a ton of stock into that they've got to totally reinvent the wheel to throw a cliche in there. They're just going to use a lot of good players and play good defense.
And even when you're talking about nickel and dime, and Hanny, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, you can still, it's a 4-3 defense, but your Sam's going to be a nickel Sam. It's not going to be a linebacker. So you'll still have some of those same principles, but it's going to be different personnel out there. And if you're kind of wondering what I'm talking about, go back right now in the SEC Network, if you can stomach it, the Arkansas-LSU game is on from 2007. Kind of look at the position that a Luke Sanders plays. He was the Sam linebacker. Well, we played a ton of under defense because that's what everyone in college was doing, because you had teams that were running the football doing different things. You won't see that. There will Perry Riley on the line of scrimmage playing Sam linebacker, like LSU fans remember. That's just not how you play it anymore. So it's going to look different from the first time, but there's still going to be some of those principles, just with different guys doing it. Like when we're talking about a nickel Sam, and like a Kerry Benson's probably going to play. And
a good rotation up front to keep people fresh, because defensive linemen, they got
some great players up front, led by Tyler Shelvin and Glenn Logan, who's coming back. Tyler's a little heavy right now. He's got to get his weight down, but I do believe he will. Apu Ika is down to 330, a slim 330, came at 390. And I want you to remember these names now: Jacqueline Roy, Jacobin Guillory, and Eric Taylor. 3 outstanding interior defensive linemen. And then on the outside, we have Andre Anthony, who I think the 4-3 fits him very good. B.J. Ujulari, who I believe is going to be an All-American here, and Philip Webb. Those are 2 freshmen. This is probably the best freshman class that I've seen in a long time. Justin Thomas is back with us. He's going to play right in. At left end, Ali Gay. Ali's a junior college player. Bill Bush recruited him. Ali's about 6'6", 250, runs very fast, very athletic. And then another guy that's really having a good camp is Chavez Moore, doing a great job. Jarrell Cherry and Sony's there. So we got 4 deep on the defensive line, and we're very fired up about it.
Asked him about defensive linemen. He named 114 guys. And I just love the fact that he refers to Apu Ika as a slim 330, because I knew exactly what he meant, because we saw him in camp last year, probably 30 pounds heavier than that. So pick your favorite one. In Kubelik's rankings, he also had Glenn Logan in his top 5, I believe.
Yeah, so he had Tyler Shelvin at 1. He had Glenn Logan at 5. And Glenn Logan, to me, was an undervalued player a year ago. And I think this system actually fits him better than the old 3-4 system did. I see him being a guy that can really play a really good 3 technique. And remember when Glenn Logan was out last year? I mean, that was something that showed up on LSU's defense. And so he might not be a superstar as far as guys you recognize, but this is a guy that is going to be as important as almost anybody on the LSU defense.
Same position type as Benny Logan. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought. And I hadn't even heard. I've heard Ogeron on this station with Jordy and T-Bob talk about Ojulari. I had not heard that sound they just played where he said he's going to be an All-American. But I think they're looking for somebody to rush the passer. They don't have a guy that they can point to and go, that we know what we're going to get from that guy. And there are some guys that have been around a long time that, quite frankly, have not produced. I like the young blood.
And look, you can always tell who the impressive freshmen are by everyone in the building, not just Coach O. Obviously, Coach O is going to raise his guys up. But when BJ walked in from day one, it was the equipment staff, the training staff, the people in the dining hall. They're like, hey, you seen that kid? And after they saw him just a couple times work out, I remember going over there and Moffitt and Connor Neighbors are like, hey, just wait till you see this guy. And so when it's everybody in the building and not just your head coach, you start to get excited about him. So that's probably going to be my freshman that I lock in on almost every time he's on the field this year.
You put a lot of stock into what those guys say because they're around them so much.
Every day. Yeah. They know. You can learn more from people like that around the program than anybody, because they can tell you, is the guy doing the right things? Is he on time? Is he coming on here on 2 wheels, bumping over the railroad tracks to try to make the workouts on time? Is he preparing? Is he the first guy out of the building when practice is over, or does he linger around and talk to his coaches, his teammates? Does he treat us nice? Does he treat the student manager at the window who he's asking for a pair of socks? Does he treat him in the right way, or does he disrespect him? All of those things, they add up, and it never fails. Almost every name that they give you, they're really good on the football field. I mean, their guy, they kept telling me about Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a year. Like, hey, man, I'm just telling you, this guy's built a little different. When he gets his chance, he's going to thrive. And this is before we even we knew who he was, because he went to Catholic High and he's a local kid. But before that, right? But they kept talking. And so you'll get stories from guys like that. You can learn a lot of information from the people inside the building.
Because if you take care of the little things, you're just quite naturally going to take care of the big things.
Absolutely. They can count on you. They can trust you. Now, in almost every time a guy flakes out from day one, they're like, oh, guys, this guy's going to be a headache for 3 years.
And those guys,
they flake out.
Yeah. You can watch us on YouTube. 104.5 ESPN is the page with CST. 11:30, the Tiger in Shreveport. This is Hanging with Hester and Hanny. 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
All right, as you know, brought to you every single day by our title sponsor, Richards Honda. You can always find them online at richardshonda.com. Love the website. It's set up for success, and it's also set up to answer your questions right now, right in the bottom right corner of the website. You can pull up a conversation with sales. You can ask them any question that you might have. I always tell you. It tells you how long you have left to save in the bottom left corner of the website. Only a day left in their current special offers they've got over at Richards Honda. But I would encourage you, get out of the house, get out of the office. If you can make it over to the dealership at 13413 Millerville Greens Boulevard in Baton Rouge, you need to do it because they have something you're going to fall in love with. With over 700 vehicles on the lot and so many different variations to choose from. If you're looking for a car, they've got the Accord, the Civic, and the Fit. Of course, they've got multiple hybrids. They just added the CRV hybrid, which is that midsize SUV hybrid. They've got the original CRV, HRV, and the Passport, the Odyssey minivan, the full-size Pilot, the Ridgeline truck, something for everybody in every lifestyle at Richards Honda, home with a warm and fuzzy feeling.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Divorce is hard. Divorce is messy. Divorce is exhausting. The law offices of O.C. Brown walked me through my divorce and helped me find the right solution for me, my kids, my finances, and my property.
Call the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, make not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
This isn't just another day, it's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is a local bank with a straightforward philosophy.
It's about doing the right thing for our customers.
Participating in our community with annual local fundraisers. Offering individual attention in a modern banking atmosphere with a trusted local company. Gulf Coast Bank invested in technology with a local touch, giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime.
We're building relationships through personal service as the bank that cares about you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Toyota, we don't just sell cars, we buy them too. Bring your car in so we can see it, and within minutes you can turn your car into cash or trade it in towards your next vehicle. It's a fast and easy process. We buy your.
It's a Thursday edition of Game Time with Jimmy Ott and Ben Mintz. We're live from Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar from 6 to 8 p.m. It will be happy hour and we'll be watching the Pelicans. Come say hello or tune in to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
Brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Saints reported earlier this week. Reported to what? Reported to New Orleans, because it ain't camp.
Is communicating the schedule properly, and then, the ability to handle some of the distractions and not make it the thing so problematic that it can interfere with what we're trying to do relative to football. And so I think the teams that handle that the best, along with the teams that stay healthy, improve their chances. Well, the week we're in this week is just strictly COVID testing. Next week, after the physicals are taking place over the weekend, next week we move into, an acclimation period where they're lifting weights, they're running, they're meeting, and we'll have a series of walkthroughs.
We talked about this a touch yesterday, Jake, that you still got the same reporting date roughly, and you still got, for the moment, the same scheduled opener.
Right.
But you don't have a normal camp. That's why Peyton said, don't call this camp. So what are we going to call it?
It's OTAs right now.
Yeah. Right. It's not even OTAs right now. It's, stick a Q-tip up your nose and go home. We'll get back with you. Next week, it's OTAs.
It's almost like, it's almost like when you're a rookie and you first get there and you're just trying to learn everything and you're trying to figure out where everything's at, and you come in, you do your physicals, and you do all those type of things. But he just kind of mentioned it, working out, running, some walkthroughs. That's kind of what you do when you first kind of get back into an OTA situation where you don't go helmets or anything. You're like, okay, let's install a couple things, and that only lasts a couple of days, and then you're like, let's get right into it.
How many days would it be on average from the day you walked into the building for the first time and the day you put pads
on?
Yeah.
4 or 5 days before you put full pads on. You'll have a couple of those practices that, you're just in helmets only. And then you'll go to shells maybe for a day, which is just shoulder pads and shorts, which never made any sense because it was full go. But
21 days from they walk into the building to get their COVID test to the day they put full pads on. 3 full weeks. Ain't anything normal about that. So it gets into, what can you do as far as your installs and, how the things that you would have normally done in the off season that just simply you did not have the time to do. And Peyton talked about what that shortened off season meant.
Well, we've had shortened off seasons before. I mean, when the players were locked out in 2011, there were no off season, and guys came back in good shape. I expect our players to be in very good shape when we see them. Their physical conditioning and their physical preparation should not have been affected during this. We made a point early on to tell them that we weren't going to, regardless of what happened, we kind of saw ahead of time that there wasn't going to be a chance for mini camp or OTAs. We were able to have meetings like everyone else, but I expect the players to be in outstanding shape. It's their livelihood.
This team, with a veteran presence on it, probably is more equipped than just about any other team in the league to be able to handle no off season. Still, it can't be the most comfortable for Peyton.
So NFL workouts are not what college workouts are. The intensity is not the same because you're dealing with older players. It's completely different than dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And so I fully do believe if you have a veteran team like the Saints, you can count on them to be able to do the right things. In a lot of cases, they probably worked out harder than they would have if they were at the facility, because I can remember after I left Tommy Moffitt in LSU, I didn't really know what the NFL workouts were. And I remember our first one getting done. And I'm like, all right, well, what's the next? No, that's it. And I'm like, that's it? We're not running 1,000 110s, or we're not running up a hill, or we're not pulling a sled, or like, no, that's it. And, and they told me like, hey, you see that guy over there was Dave Ben. He was our deep snapper. He's 36 years old. And so I realized at that moment, okay, this is a little bit different. So the intensity of the workouts when you get to the NFL, because the off season is different, you go home or you go do your own thing really for 4 months anyways, especially now in the new CBA, you're expected to come back in shape already. And so, yes, this is a much longer period of time, but you're still expected to come in enough shape where we're not getting you in shape. That's not what we're here for. In college, it is. In the NFL, we're not getting you in shape. No, we are just continuing your progress to get ready for the season. And so I believe he has full faith in his team did the right things when they were gone.
The one thing that I would have liked to have seen as far as their offseason, just from a continuity standpoint, is the ability of their offensive line to work together, because there are going to be some changes there. and moving Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz into that offensive middle. And who's going to play where? And Peyton had this to say about those plans.
Look, we'll meet on that, visit with them, practice, rotate those guys, move them around. We'll have a plan, and I'm sure by the time we start the regular season, we'll have ironed out some of those question marks, and that's just one of many.
Do you think that he knows exactly what he wants to do and he's just not saying, or is this really an experimental period with these two as to who's going to play center and who's going to play guard?
I think he absolutely knows what he wants. He knows in his mind what he thinks is going to work out. He'll still, experiment in practice, but it's going to be a majority of what he already thinks in his mind. That's what they're going to roll with. And so he knows exactly where he wants McCoy, where he wants Ruiz to be able to play in this offense. And unless something happens, that's the way it's going to be, right? Because you don't draft a guy, you don't take a guy like Ruiz in the first round if you don't already have a plan in place as far as what you want to do. And McCoy was such a good rookie center a year ago. That's why when the move was made, there were some questions.
I grossly miscalculated
Larry Warford too.
How poorly Larry Warford played last year. I didn't.
I think we all did. I mean, we knew he wasn't himself, but we didn't really know what the Saints' plan was for him at that moment either.
And I think in a COVID-free world, there's a pretty good chance that Larry Warford would have retired. There's a good chance that he may still retire.
He's already opted out, yeah.
Well, there is a question mark about somebody opting out that hadn't actually signed with a team, and does he get paid?
Right.
Was he planning on retiring anyway and now sees a way that, hey, you know what, let me pick up $350 let me pick up $350 on the way out the door for doing nothing. There's a pretty good chance we may have seen the end of it. I did not take that into consideration when we were doing the draft shows.
But to your point earlier about how veteran the Saints are, how much continuity they have on the roster, I mean, you've got, 3 draft picks that they're going to lean on? Certainly Ruiz. You would think that Troutman's right in the middle of it, and then the linebacker Bone, I think. Outside of that, Emmanuel Sanders, how many new faces are they going to lean on heavily? It's not more than 4, 5, 6?
You just named most of them. The idea that they may get
only had 4 draft picks,
right? And Stevens, they planned.
They got a
word is they're going to carry Stevens too, even if it's on the even if it's early on the practice squad. But you just named pretty much all of them. I mean, they're going to get Alex Anzalone back from injury, and Kiko Alonso is going to probably start on a limited basis here in camp coming off that ACL. And then Janoris Jenkins, who they signed at the very end of last year, is technically new. And then Malcolm Jenkins, provided he reports and doesn't opt out, as he indicated he might a month ago, but hadn't said anything about it recently. That's the list.
I mean, you're not putting any new systems on either side of the ball. They just don't have that many moving parts.
They've got a lot of veterans that they can lean on. Last one, the Saints are pretty good at trying to find some of those undrafted free agents that can make the club. Not going to have preseason games to do that with this year.
The first thing is I would say we're not in training camp, if you will. There's nothing about this that's like training camp. We're going to approach it differently in that, we're going to have to evaluate, which we always do during the practice sessions. We can create environments which are more like scrimmage environment in our padded practices. We'll have to do some of that, but this will be entirely different than what a training camp would be like. So I think one of the things is looking at it differently, and we're doing that as we begin to put together our schedule between now and when we open up at home versus Tampa Bay.
Give me the difference between looking at practice tape and preseason game tape, because that's what they're going to have to do and do without.
Honestly, if you're going ones-on-ones, you're going good on good, you're going to get a lot from that tape, because anybody that's ever played any level of football knows when it's one offense versus one defense, it can be your best friend against the line. You're trying to go for blood in those scenarios, and the Saints were an older team. You aren't going to see much in the preseason, right? Because when you have an older team, they already don't play a lot in the preseason, even if it is that third game or second game whenever you decide to play your starters. And I wish you did have practices against other teams, because you get more from those practices. You've heard me say this, than a preseason game. I know you don't have the ability to do that, but as far as your ones, you can get off that practice tape more than the preseason tape. Who you don't get as much off of is the guy who's 53rd on the team or 52nd on the team, which the Saints have been really good at the last couple of years, because in practice scenarios, it's bomb squad versus bomb squad, and you might not get enough good tape on him to make that decision.
But that's the problem, because I don't need to evaluate ones-on-ones. I don't need to see Cam Jordan go against Ryan Ramczyk. I don't need to see Drew Brees throw against Marshawn Lattimore. I know those guys are going to start. I know those guys are stars.
Yeah, because this isn't a team that has a lot of question marks, right?
Yeah.
If you were a team that had 6 question marks going in, I mean, the Saints really, their biggest question mark, and it might be, okay, who plays center and who plays guard? We know both are going to play, but which one plays it? So they don't have a ton of question marks. But other teams, you can get it. But for the Saints, yeah, they're definitely going, those last couple of guys on the roster, it's going to be very difficult to evaluate them.
Yeah, I want to see if the third defensive end can make any headway at all against Teron Armstead. I want to see if the fourth defensive back gets completely turned around by Emmanuel Sanders.
So that's why in San Diego, Norv used to like to switch it up. And even though a lot of teams played their starters in the third game, he liked to do it in the second game. And in the third game, he liked to see his backups go against their starters. I remember there was one. So I was starting fullback, but I was the third tailback or the fourth tailback, depending on which year it was. But we played the Vikings, and they had their starters. It was Jared Allen. It was everybody out there. It was their starters for 3 quarters, and it was us. It was Charlie Whitehurst was our quarterback. I mean, we were going out there with the 2s, a lot of 3s, because he wanted to see, okay, against the best competition, who's going to show up and who's going to be the guy that takes the reins and wins the job. So, you lose that. You lose that for sure. But in the Saints' case, though, there's not a lot of open roster spots anyways, though. So it's not like they were going to fill out the bottom 10 of their roster. I mean, how many spots do you really think are open on this team? I mean, we're talking about a draft choice and Tommy Stevens. How does he make the roster? All right.
He's going to make the roster, in my opinion, because they traded up for him. They went to great lengths to make sure Carolina didn't get him. Now, does that mean he's going to play quarterback? No. But they're going to find something for him to do, whether it be on special teams or in some kind of goofy formation. I mean, there's nobody better in the game than Sean Payton at finding a talented guy. And like I said, they didn't just pick him because they had a pick left over. They had to trade back into the draft. They had to actually make some moves to get him. They did it with something in mind. I watched him play quarterback at Mississippi State and wasn't over the moon with him, but he's athletic. And there's a case to be made that if they're going to move Taysom Hill up in the pecking order, that they want somebody to do what Taysom Hill does now if Taysom Hill eventually does become the starting quarterback. So I think he's going to make the team. I think he's going to make the active roster. Maybe not playing any quarterback, though. Take a break here. Hanging with Hester and Hanny. We are brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny. We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN invites you to take a short quiz for a chance to win a brand new EU1000 generator from our friends at Bozeman Distributors. Simply go to 1045ESPN.com now through August 16th and take the quiz to see how prepared you are for hurricane season. Everyone who takes the quiz is automatically entered to win the generator. Our winner will be chosen on Monday, August 17th. Get prepared for hurricane season from 1045 ESPN and stay prepared with Bozeman Distributors.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Here at the Big Squeezy, we continue to serve the Baton Rouge and Southeast Louisiana areas during these troubling times. We are dedicated to providing you healthy food items to help you live your best life. From our cold-pressed juices to our delicious smoothies, let the Big Squeezy keep you going. Stay active, stay happy, and let us help you stay healthy. Visit us at our locations and also inside of Alexander's and Mathern's grocery stores or online at thebigsqueezy.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big V and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Coming up on Friday's OTB, a huge day as we recap Pelicans Jazz and welcome Pelicans GM Trajan Langdon to the show. Plus the latest on the SEC potentially going conference only. And Cole Kubelik talks college football. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
Go to 1045ESPN.com now through August 16th and take a quiz to see how prepared you are for hurricane season. Everyone who takes the quiz will instantly put their name in the drawing for a brand new EU 1000 generator from Bozeman Distributors. Get prepared for hurricane season from 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Stay prepared with Bozeman Distributors.
Hunt, you have a blank roster. You can take anybody in the National Football League to start with. Who would you pick?
Oh, Lord. I didn't know that was coming. I'm going to take Mahomes.
Okay. Jacob, you got a blank roster. You can take anybody in the league to start with. Who you starting with?
Patrick Mahomes.
Is it possible that Patrick Mahomes came in at number 4 on this list of the 100 best players in the NFL? Because I think I could have asked anybody in this building. I mean, even Paul would have responded. You know, Paul doesn't speak really, but he would have said, you know, Patrick Mahomes. Is it possible that the players that didn't vote for him number 1 are doing it out of some kind of spite? We've seen this in All-Star voting before.
I don't think so, because he is very, very beloved in the NFL. When you talk to some guys who are currently playing, and this isn't me, talking bad about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had a special year last year. He deserved to be in the top 5, top 10 for sure.
He deserved the MVP, and Mahomes missed some time too.
Yes. But as far as the top 100 players, there's no doubt who the best player in the NFL is right now. With everything he can do on the field, off the field, team leader, all those things, he is the best player in the NFL.
Who's in front of him? Lamar Jackson, like some kind
Russell Wilson and Aaron Donald.
Okay.
Donald's the best defensive player. I get that. And Russ is a really good football player. But if you asked anybody within 100 yards of this building, if we just walked and asked everybody we saw for 100 yards and that they knew football, Mahomes would be the answer.
Sometimes the answer is different when you're asking who would you take to win one game, and who would you take to start a franchise around? This is where you have to make the difference between the Aaron Rodgerses and the Tom Bradys, because Brady is significantly older than him. But in this case, I think the answer is the same to both questions.
Yes.
If you were starting a franchise and you were keeping him forever, or if you were just playing one game, the answer is the same, right? I mean, I wouldn't take anybody different than him if it was just one game.
No, I mean, it's the most important position, and he's the best.
I would have bet anything when they started this list, because they count backwards from 100, that he was going to be number one. And I was flabbergasted that he wasn't. And he took it, when you're a superstar, sometimes you have to look for some perceived disrespect. Michael Jordan was the best at this.
Yeah.
He's still mad at his high school coach, okay? The guy's 50-something years old. He's still ticked off at that guy. But
you see him bullying the kids on the playground this week
did.
earlier?
That was funny.
You need to YouTube Michael Jordan.
So sometimes you have to manufacture that stuff when you're the best. He doesn't even have to manufacture it now. They've told him. The first thing that came to my mind was this guy, did somebody dirty, and a group of players just didn't like him, because I thought he was pretty well liked in the league too. So I got nothing. If you're telling me that they all, I got nothing. No chance. Coming up in the next hour, top of the hour, Jen Hale will be with us. The Pelicans are about 3.5 hours away from starting the season, the 8-game sprint to the finish. And Reese Davis at 2:30. We'll talk college football with him. Hunt, appreciate it.
We'll see y'all next week.
Hey, bring something in the pizza boxes next time.
I'll make it an effort.
Back on the other side, hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast office products.
Do you know the proper way to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your office? We do. We're King, a leader in the cleaning industry for over 30 years, and we've developed comprehensive programs to address proper cleaning and disinfection. We have experience in applying disinfecting programs in hospitals, office buildings, schools, and other venues. Now we're ready to help and able to assist customers that need disinfecting services.
The king of clean.
Prompt, professional, reliable. If you're looking for a breath of fresh air with your AC and heating needs, call the professionals at Anison Bitter. Anison Bitter, a Rheem Pro partner, keeping your family comfortable for over 25 years.
Hand injury lawyers. Now, Hangin with Hester and Hanny with Jacob Hester and Charles Hanagriff. Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger. Alongside Jacob Hester, here's Charles Hanagriff.
Hour number 3, Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. If you're with us up in the Shreveport area, 1130 The Tiger on CST and our YouTube channel, 104.5 ESPN. About 3.5 hours away from the Pelicans' restart as they take on the Utah Jazz at 5:30. Jen Hale, of course, covers the Pelicans, and she joins us right now. Jen, good afternoon. Cade. Okay. Well, let's hope the Pelicans restart goes a little bit better than this.
I hadn't heard a good old, like, a little button being hit in a
You
long
know
time.
what? You know what it is. I said that the remote equipment that always works. I had that. This is my fault technically. Jen, can you hear us?
I got you loud and clear. Hi guys, how are you?
Great. Good afternoon. Let me not bury the lead here. Alvin Gentry calls Zion Williamson a game time decision. What is your feel for how much we'll see Zion tonight?
I think we'll probably see him 10 to 15 minutes. He's so anxious to go, so excited to return to play. He looks great, guys, by the way. If there are any silver linings to this hiatus, the layoff, he was able to really get healthy and get conditioned. Now, that being said, because of the family emergency, he hasn't run in 10 days. That's a lot as far as being winded and up and down an NBA court. So I think they're going to be smart with him. I think they're going to be smart for him as well. And even though he's chomping at the bit to go full force, I think they'll let him get his feet wet, but they want to save him and make sure they have him for this stretch because, hey, there is no margin for error if they want to make the playoffs. It's very doable, but they have to be pretty close to perfect every night.
And obviously Zion grabs all of the headlines, but there's still so many players on this Pelicans team that were playing their best basketball when everything halted. So for you, outside of Zion, who's the most important player for the Pelicans in this playoff run?
Got to be Drew Holiday. So much of what he does not show up on the stat sheet. His defense especially. He's just one of the best defenders in the entire league. Not just because he can defend other guards, but he'll defend guys 6 inches and 50.
This is completely my fault.
It is 1,000% your fault.
It is 1,001%.
Right before this segment, you were talking about the ease of just sitting in that chair and everything working.
This is the conversation we had at the top of the hour, and you said, "What's it like, not to have to deal with remote equipment?" I said, "Well, it's great because everything works." And it's 1,001% my fault. She back? Okay. Jen, we apologize. We've had some problems, but go right ahead. You were talking about Drew Holiday.
Just his defense, guys. He's so good against guards his size, but also in mismatches. You put him up against a player that's 50 pounds heavier, 6 inches taller, no problem. He's savvy enough to figure out how to make it a mismatch, and I think that's going to be huge. I'm excited to watch him on Donovan Mitchell tonight. Bogdan Bogdanovic is out for the Jazz. He's out for the playoff run, the whole stretch run. So I think you're going to see Mitchell really try to step up his shooting even more, take on a larger role. So I think it's going to be a battle all night long between Drew and Donovan tonight.
Jen, if you believe that Zion plays 10 to 15 minutes, who picks up the minutes in his absence?
You're going to see a lot of D-Fave, and I think you're going to see a lot of Jackson Hayes as well. Rudy Gobert for the Jazz, their center, he is just a monster. He crushes it on the boards, and he's such an offensive threat. I think the Pelicans are going to have to rotate often and deep with their bigs anyway, just to keep them fresh from the challenge of going against Gobert. But considering, Zion, I would expect to have limited minutes. Jackson Hayes, get ready to step up, young man. All that improvement, now it's going to get put to the test. He looked really good in the 3 scrimmages, him and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So now the real test, the real fun begins.
Jen, also Derek Favors is a guy that we've talked about a lot on this show, and he is very important to the front line there for the Pelicans. And I know he's set out for some rest issues. He's an older player. Do you expect him to be a full go tonight?
I do, yes. The point of resting him during those scrimmages was to make sure he was ready to go for this point. The goal, the object of those scrimmages for the Pelicans, get the starters enough minutes to get their rhythm back and their feet underneath them. But, hey, the important thing are these 8 seeding games and making sure that if needed, hopefully you can just jump up and grab that 8th spot from Memphis. I think it'll be tough. Portland's right there too. I look at the play-in games between the 8th and 9th seed as the most realistic possibility for the Pelicans. So you're going to need everybody healthy, and except for Zion, which, it's not an injury. It's just the layoff from having to deal with this family emergency. They have a healthy roster. So they're in excellent position.
Jen, how do you think the Utah Jazz approach this game from a minutes for their starters type of outlook? There is no home court advantage to be gained. The Jazz could technically, I guess they could go as high as 2, but realistically they could be anywhere from the 3 to the 6 seed. And I don't know that there's a lot of difference. How do you think they treat the ramp up?
We were talking about that, myself and David Wesley, earlier this morning. They don't have a ton to play for, as you just said. However, I think it's important for them to set the tone first game back, not just first game for their team, but this is the first NBA game back. So tons of eyeballs, tons of potential momentum. I think they are going to take it more seriously than they may some of the other games, because they want to get started on the right foot and they want to make an impression right out of the gate. You don't want to start lackadaisical. You don't want to start looking like you're still trying to figure things out. So I think the Pelicans are going to get their best effort. And with the absence of Bogdanovic, there are going to be young guys on that Jazz squad looking to make their mark, looking to jump up and prove, hey, I can be next man up. So that certainly fuels their fire. I don't think the Pelicans are going to get a limited effort from the Jazz tonight at all.
Jen, I'm very curious what the atmosphere is going to be like when the regular season starts. Now, you just covered the basketball tournament, who was kind of in the same situation. You didn't have fans. And obviously there's money on the line, and guys are trying to win that $1 million there in the basketball tournament. But what was the enthusiasm in the basketball tournament? And do you expect kind of the same thing for the NBA once they're on the court going against each other, not having the fans won't affect the atmosphere?
It is weird. I'm going to be honest with you. It feels a bit like a practice until the game starts. And then you get into it and you're watching the guys. For TBT, as you mentioned, the money on the line, it's single elimination, winner take all. It really enabled them to generate their own energy and buzz. And I truly think for these 8 seeding games, it's going to be a very similar thing because it's such a compressed amount of time. There's so much on the line. There's not much racing room. To me, the more difficult challenge will be if we go into next season and you're looking at 82 games and it's number 43 on a Monday night with no fans. I think that's when it's going to start to get really hard for the players to generate their own hype and energy.
Jen, is there a sense of relief by the league right now with the games starting officially that, hey, we didn't know if this was going to work. We had to move heaven and earth basically to make this bubble happen. But you know what? We made it. We're sitting on 0 tests right now. We're actually going to start real live games. Is there a sense of, hey, we actually pull this off, or not yet?
Not yet. I think there's a big sense of optimism, a big sense of we think we got this right. We think we really did a great job with this. But I'll tell you, from doing my COVID test, we tested every other day in the TBT bubble. Man, up until the last game, I hadn't been around anybody. Everybody was, testing negative, but it made me nervous every time. Oh my goodness. I just want to see that negative result. So I think folks are still holding their breath. I think they feel really good about where they're at and that they have done everything possible to set this up for success, and the players are buying in. That's the key. Bubbles can work, but it's a commitment. It's not fun. You really have to restrict your activity and give up some freedoms and be committed to, hey, we are here to play basketball, and that's the only priority. So I think they will be hesitant to call it a success, an overall victory or win, until everything is said and done. But compared to the other leagues we see around the nation and even in college sports, boy, the NBA sure is setting the tone. They were visionaries. They were on top of this since day one. And I do think as much as you can get this situation right, they have. It's unprecedented. We're all learning as we go.
Jen, real quick, last one for me. You mentioned Zion, 10, 15 minutes, and we've talked so much about Major League Baseball really having to push every resource they have because you only play in 60 games, so the managers are going to do something that they typically wouldn't do. Kind of the same question I want to ask in the NBA, only 10 to 15 minutes, but with only having so many games to try to get into the postseason, will you see these head coaches push it to the limit as much as you've ever seen as far as minutes and maybe pushing something they normally wouldn't?
I don't think they're going to come out and say that, but yes, I think that is going to be – it's do or die, right? You have 8 games of racing room, and at least in the Western Conference, you've got 3 games, 3.5 games to make up. You have to. You don't have the luxury of, well, you can drop a couple and come back from it. No, you can't. If you drop a couple, you're out.
Jen, we appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing real live basketball that counts here in about a little over 3 hours. Thanks a bunch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love coming on. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Jen.
And today's show is also brought to you in part by Supreme Rice. All rice is made the same? Not exactly. When you're talking about Supreme Rice, you're talking about rice that is made by Louisiana farmers. I want to support our Louisiana farmers, so I get rice that's grown, milled, and processed right here in South Louisiana since 1936 out of Crowley, Louisiana. Supreme Rice doing the job. In fact, we were talking yesterday. This weekend, it's shrimp etouffee. We're going to make it with that jasmine rice that we like so much, the brown, the long grain. Pick your favorite. You're not going to go wrong. You can get Supreme Rice at all of your Rouses, all of your Costco's, all of your Walmarts, and all of your AG food dealers. You're looking for something unique? Great recipes available on the website at supremerice.com. Pick up some today. Supreme Rice helping you stretch that food dollar here during phase 2 of the pandemic. For more information and for great recipes, go to supremerice.com. Take a break. Reese Davis at the bottom of the hour, hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
All right, brought to you by Baton Rouge Foundation Repair. Baton Rouge Foundation Repair offers services to correct the settlement of both slab foundations and pier and beam foundations. Some signs of foundation problems: doors that won't close, sunken floors, cracks in the foundation, cracked outside and inside walls. Some of the things that contribute to those foundation problems: plumbing leaks, evaporation, poor soil conditions, poor drainage, poor foundation construction, tree roots, all of those things, right? Well, make sure that your work gets done right the first time by calling Baton Rouge Foundation Repair. They've been servicing the greater Baton Rouge area for more than 22 years. And I'm going to tell you this every single day because I think it's important. Their owner, Michael and Monica, lifelong resident of Baton Rouge. He cares about the community. It was the first thing out of his mouth the first time I ever met Michael. So don't be asked to pay twice for your foundation repair work. Get Baton Rouge Foundation Repairs, water, shield, pilings, and estimates, always free. You can do it by calling 225-275-0101. That's 225-275-0101. Or check them out online at brfoundation.com.
Off the Bench, Hangin with Hester and Hanny. After further review and more are all live daily on the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube page. Subscribe now to interact with us inside the live chat. Find highlights for each show's channel and get notified whenever we go live.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, make not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We'll find out about the SEC scheduling, and we got a full hour with Mike Detillier. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
And we're brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Well, we may know something by a little bit later this afternoon from the Southeastern Conference as they are talking right now. And we could have something before maybe the end of Matt's show today as far as what they expect to do schedule-wise. Maybe not all of the details, but at least a broad outline. And the leader in the clubhouse right now is conference only. This was Ed Ogeron about the start of the season.
What about the season? Well, here's our mindset. Obviously, that's out of my control. I know it's in our control, is that we're going to prepare. We're preparing that we're going to kick off September 5th, and I'm going to have our team ready. We're not going to blink, and we're not going to change our mindset. If they move it back, if they change it, who cares? It doesn't matter. You call us at midnight, we go play in the pasture. The mindset of our football team, I think we have tremendous leadership. Obviously, we've been through some things here. We win the national championship. The COVID hits, several outside factors came into play. We had to have team meetings. It brought us closer. We had a great leadership. Our guys have not blinked. I think they've worked very hard. They're prepared, and we're ready to go.
You got your blue book? Did you bring your blue book today?
Yeah,
it's somewhere. Okay,
hey,
right. Okay,
blue book.
Give me your thoughts on this. If they come out, as we think there's a good chance they will, and say conference only, when will the University of Texas set foot in Tiger Stadium?
It could be a while because, as you know, they can move games around and they can cancel contracts, but there's not an opening for a very long time. If I'm not mistaken,
2032.
Okay, I knew it was.
If you're only going to play one Power 5 game in the non-conference every year, then your next opening, I think, is 2032.
So I want Texas in Death Valley, but I want them in Death Valley when it's full force, right? When we've had all day to get ready.
Prepared.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the PC word I could use there. Hydrated, if you will. I want that.
Bourboned.
And look, because I can sit on us beating you in your own stadium the way we did last year, right? I can sit on that for a long time. You tried to treat us like second-class citizens. That's fine. Well, I can live on that for a while. So I want them in Death Valley when it's full force. But real quick, what I took from that quote, Coach O talking about we'll play anywhere, call us at midnight, whatever. I want to say that when I go over to practice, the difference in a Alabama week and a Northwestern State week, that there's not a lot of difference in the way that Coach O runs his practice, and that's very difficult to do, to have your team ready to play like that, and Coach O doesn't hide from it. He talks about the Troy loss. I mean, he talks about it all the time. He'll mention that loss. And since that moment, that feeling over there when you go over across the street and you're watching practice, they're ready for every situation because everything looks the same. The way they prepare, which, again, I'm going to tell you, it's very difficult to get your team to do that. But that's the truth. And you could walk into a practice and you never know who the opponent was, is kind of my point. And so when he says that, I truly believe him. Like, we'll play you. Just call us, let us know when, because we're going to prepare like we do every single day for whoever we're playing. Just call us, let us know when you're ready to play. And I truly think that he doesn't care. He doesn't care when it is. He wants to play football, and whenever you tell him to play, they're going to play.
There's a certain amount of that machismo to every football coach. But what I hear coming out of that building, not just from Coach O when he's in public, but I'm talking about other people that have been in that building or been around this team when we hear things, right? You can see things. Is that attitude comes from a place that says, you know why we want to play? We're really good. Like this is a team that is loaded with talent. Not that they wouldn't be saying some of those things, even if they might have a hole or two somewhere in the roster. You say, oh yeah, we're going to play. No, what I hear when the microphone's off when I'm talking to people is, man, look, please don't cancel this season because I want to see this group play. And how could you top last year? Well, you can't. But listen, this is going to be a fun group to watch.
And they want to prove, because I still don't think you see the respect that's deserved out there in the national media, because it still starts, the conversation in some places still starts with Clemson and Alabama and those schools, and you start talking about blue bloods. Well, look at LSU. Since 2003, they've won 3 national championships, right?
And played for another. Under 3 different coaches.
Right. So not a lot of people can say that. There's very few schools that can even be in that conversation. Well, LSU's in that conversation, and this was going to be a year, because in 2008, we didn't do what we were supposed to do after 2007 as a program. It wasn't the year after a national championship it should have been. It wasn't in recruiting class, and it wasn't on the field. I think we can all agree to that. And so in 2004, I was on that team. Now, we weren't a bad football team. I mean, I think we lost 2 regular season games, but still, like, you wanted to capitalize more off the 2003 championship than I think you did. And Saban left and the whole deal. We know the story. So this is a year for them to prove, hey, no, we're a big boy. We are the big boy. We're going to be here for a very long time. Get used to seeing us in the top 1, 2, or 3 in the country. And so I think for those reasons as well, because they do know, Hanny, what they have coming back.
And they've built on that with the recruiting momentum has not stopped.
Right.
It has been for a team like everybody else, I understand, that can't bring in people for visits, that cannot go about having their camps.
They actually should be handcuffed because you can't show them the national championship trophies. You can't show them the Heisman Trophy. You can't show them in your new building that's not a little over a year old. You can't have the camps, which Coach O is so good at creating that relationship with all of these high school athletes. Like, you can't have all those things. So even they're handcuffed a little bit because they can't necessarily recruit off that championship like they would if everything was opened up. So it's even more impressive, the job that they've done. And I've said it for a long time, and I think you would agree. You're recruiting off your personality more than almost anything right now, because if you don't have one, it's very difficult to recruit right now.
He's mastered the Zoom.
He has. Absolutely has. Now, he might not set it up and he might not log off, right. But when he's talking, he has mastered it.
I think we've all mastered Zoom. February, we didn't know what Zoom was. Well,
I wish I had stock in it.
Let me speak for myself, okay? I didn't know what the hell Zoom was in February, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say probably Coach O didn't know what Zoom was in February. Now it's part of our daily lives.
I had no clue what it was. The first time I ever hopped on a Zoom, we were doing kind of a SEC roundtable, just trying to create some content. And it was me, Peter Burns, Alyssa Lane, Cole Kublik, Tom Hart, and we were just trying to, put some content out there because everything stopped right there. That Zoom got hacked, and we saw something we never wanted to see again. And that was my first.
About that.
That was my first welcome to Zoom.
I'm still learning how to use this thing. We had a company-wide Zoom yesterday.
That virtual Zoom, bro.
Right, that thing. And so I've got it propped up next to my desk, and it falls, right? So I go to prop it back up, and I accidentally brushed my thumb across the screen, and it scrolled, and I saw like 4 more people. I'm like, oh, look at this. I didn't know you could. I just been looking at Flynn the entire time. I didn't know you could scroll through and see everybody. Oh, okay. And there's thousands of people out there going, right, well, how stupid are you? Okay, but I didn't know. Don't use the Zoom except for stuff like this. So we could see that scheduling announcement come, like I said, later today. And if it goes to 10 games, we're not going to see Texas probably anytime soon. But just go back and look at 3rd and 17, right?
Yeah, that will live forever. To see the disappointment on Matthew McConaughey's face, you will never lose that moment.
Not to mention the pageant wave.
Yeah.
The pageant wave.
That was when we first realized, okay, Joe's got a little bit different swag than most.
Yeah, certainly for this year. Last year, I think it was when he wanted to fight Miami. The whole team.
That's true.
He
grew legs with me that day. You're right.
Before he ever took a snap, he wanted to fight Miami. Right. Today's show also brought to you in part by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, helping you deal with pain. Man, when you're hurting, you'll do just about anything to make it stop. So let them tailor a plan for you. Whether you've got an old auto accident, an injury from that's flaring up, an old sports injury, or you just got some pains from aging, whether it's a disc or muscle or ligament strain, neck or back discomfort, let them help you out. They'll exercise and stretch you out, but you might need some dry needling, electric nerve stimulation, ultrasound, or cryotherapy. Let them do what they've done for me and other members of my family. Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, 4 locations, 13406 Airline Highway, 2832 Plank Road, 467 Oak Plaza Boulevard in Brewley, and on Jefferson Highway near Drusilla, with easy access from both I-10 and I-12. Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. Reese Davis, when we come back, this is Hangin with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny.
GMFS Mortgage, GMFSmortgage.com, helping you navigate here through the pandemic with rates that have to be seen to be believed. You got a very unique opportunity right now to take advantage of these rates, whether you're in the market for a new home and you've got a little bit more purchasing power than you would have thought, or you want to go for a refinance to save you dollars every month, dollars in the short term, dollars in the long term, and the ability to skip a mortgage payment or two. Do what I did and thousands of others have done and start your journey at gmfsmortgage.com. You'll talk to a local counselor. You'll answer a few questions, and after that, you can set out a course. They'll give you all of the options that you have. That way you can figure out which one is best for you and your family. Maybe it's a construction loan adding on to your current home. Start to finish, you're going to be really pleased with how quickly that process goes. So go to gmfsmortgage.com. When they talk about changing lines, they're talking about changing your monthly budget, and you're going to be very happy. GMFSmortgage.com.
The NBA is back. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers.
Tip-off tonight, immediately following Jimmy Ott's game time at 8.
The NBA is on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
It's a Thursday edition of Game Time with Jimmy Ott and Ben Mintz. We're live from Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar from 6 to 8 p.m. It will be happy hour and we'll be watching the Pelicans. Come say hello or tune in to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. You watching this English League Championship? Are you
I absolutely am. You kind of ratted me out there. Yeah, it's 1-1 Fulham, Cardiff City. It's to see who goes to the playoff for the chance to go up from the championship to the Premier League, which is a lot of money when you're talking about going up. Of course, relegation and promotion, something I've talked about.
This is all in this one match?
So
is this a series?
So this is the second part of the series. And so even though the game is 1-1, Fulham won the last game 2-0, so they're actually up 3-1.
So if they win, that's it?
I mean, if it stays drawn, even if they lose by a goal, that's it.
Okay.
And so then you get into a playoff with Brentford, and if you win that, then you go to the Premier League, and you talk about millions upon millions of dollars.
And how long do you get to stay there?
Well, as long as you like, because if you get in the bottom 3, you get relegated and sent right back to the championship.
They do this every year?
Every single year.
I'm learning, see?
I love it. Hey, you don't want to spend money? You want to sit on your butt? You don't want to get better? Hey, we're going to send you down to AAA, bud.
Boy, just think if college football was like that.
Oh, the power. Yeah. Hey, give me a team. Hey, Vandy, you're out. You're going to the Sun Belt.
Right. And you could promote Troy.
Yeah.
That's how you would have been able to make up some ground, right? Okay. We ready?
I don't know. Do we have? We're trying.
No. Okay.
So as you can imagine, Reese had like 37 interviews today, so we'll get him on here pretty quickly. But most people in college football right now are doing 37 interviews. I know my morning was filled with doing them, in other stations that are outside of our footprint, because they want to know, Hanny, okay, what are y'all doing down in SEC country? Because they felt like they were waiting on us. I think it was, one in Dallas and one in Charlotte, because they know that the SEC kind of holds a lot of the cards as far as what's happening, for a lot of conferences.
They're holding the cards for what the smaller conferences, I think, are doing. How many of these games are you going to lose?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of these guarantee games are you going to lose? We were talking with, I think it was, we were talking about UL Monroe earlier. Yep. That's 2 guarantee games. That's over $2 million. That's probably somewhere in the area of 8% of their budget, 10% of their budget. So if you're waiting on that, yes, that's a very big deal. And maybe the ACC didn't wait. Maybe the Big Ten, the Pac-12 didn't wait, but there's plenty of people that are waiting on the Southeastern Conference to see what they do.
The Louisiana High School Athletic Association. They're waiting.
All right, we have Reese Davis now, a host of College Game Day with us. Reese, good afternoon. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks for having me on, guys. How are you?
Doing great. I'll ask you what you think the Southeastern Conference's response when these meetings are done will be to the ACC's announcement yesterday.
I hope they do the same thing. And look, I know that we're in the midst of this pandemic, and it's causing some different types of responses. But I've been on record prior to this that I think even after this pandemic is passed, I love the scheduling model, absent the restrictions on how you can play your non-conference games. I would love to see the SEC and the ACC go to 10-game conference schedules. And then I would hope that the schools would take at least one of those extra games and play a big intersectional game. And then you can do it with a 12th one. If you want to play a smaller in-state school or an FCS, well, go for it. Who cares? And I would like to see them make the season a 14-week portion of the calendar, as we see some years, depending on how the calendar falls. That would allow you to get a couple of open dates. It would solve the issue that people have had about having too many unattractive games on the schedule. It would be good for the fans once they can go back to the stadiums, and it would be good for television. Other than that, I don't have an opinion on this.
Hey, Reese, I think you're right. And we were talking about before you hopped on. As a former player, getting ready for a game against Florida or a game against Alabama, that was a lot easier than getting ready for a game against App State or Fresno State. And that's no disrespect to those teams, because Fresno State during the time I was playing was actually a good football team, but there's just something different. So I think you'd be surprised, not you, but I think fans would be surprised with players actually prefer these games against the better opponents. And I think you're exactly right. It's going to be very hard to go back to a normal schedule if fans do get a taste of 10 really quality football games.
I totally agree. I had a coach a while back prior to all of the pandemic. When I mentioned this, he said, "You're crazy. You'd have to start thinking about, teams with 3 losses being in the playoffs." And I was like, so what? If they deserve it, that's why we have the committee, is to differentiate which teams are best. And if you play that many challenging games and you are successful in them, but maybe you stumbled a couple of times, lost a couple of close games, then I'm okay with that. If not, then let's just schedule as easily as we can and say it's all about keeping the 0 in the loss column. For instance, last year, I may have been a year ahead, but I had Texas A&M in my preseason top 10, maybe my top 5. I might have been a year early on that. But the one thing I said with their schedule against, they had, I think they had 5 teams in the top 15 or 20 or something like that on their schedule, teams in the preseason. including Alabama and Clemson, and obviously LSU. I said if they go 3-2 in those games and all 5 are competitive, why in the world would they not be a contender for the college football playoff, regardless of whether they went to the SEC championship game? So that's the way that we would have to start thinking if we adopted this in the post-COVID era, having 10 conference games. Which, look, some of those are going to be dogs. I mean, teams are going to be down, and you're going to rotate into a team that is not as good that particular year, and the schedule's going to fall your way, and it's going to be easy. But if you also play, a big, if you play Oklahoma or SC or Clemson or somebody or Ohio State in one of your non-conference games, which people are already doing because they want to make the schedule attractive to season ticket holders, then you're really going to have something. But we're going to need to change the way we think, or not change, just not be so strident about it just being a 0 or 1 loss team, and evaluate whether a team maybe played an extraordinarily difficult schedule and maybe, lost 31-28 a couple of times, but are still deserving to be among the 4 best teams.
Reese, if the SEC does go to conference only in their scheduling, does it put the Big 12 really in a bad predicament? Because if they go to conference only, they're only talking about 9 games.
I would imagine that they would make some allowances to play. They would obviously put them in a difficult situation in terms of Power 5 games. But I would imagine that the Big 12, if it can be done safely, and I should always say that the caveat for everything right now as we look at this is if it can be done as safely as possible. Nothing is foolproof. We understand that. But if it can be done as safely as possible, I would imagine that the Big 12 would make allowances for the schools in that conference, perhaps to play other schools in the region that might not be in the Big 12. And there obviously are a number of options there in Texas alone for schools to fill out that schedule a little bit.
Reese, when you look at what the ACC did as far as leaving there at the end, that non-conference ability, if you play that game in your home state or in your home stadium, a lot of thought as far as the SEC rivalry games there at the end will kind of take some of those spots. But do you think every team will fill that non-conference schedule? Do you think that they'll actually all have a game and not just a couple of them? Do you think there has to be a uniformity to it?
I don't know. I suspect that that's the only reason that rule was implemented, because it preserves the obvious ones, Clemson and South Carolina, Florida and Florida State, preserves the opportunity for them anyway, Georgia Tech, Louisville, and Kentucky. But, there are other opportunities. I mean, maybe that's one where, LSU plays Lafayette and maybe – I know this might be blasphemous in my home state, but maybe Alabama plays, Troy or UAB or somebody. And Auburn could do the same thing. So I don't know if those schools would do that or not. Some might decide that there's no real upside to playing a game like that with no fans in the stands, no real television interest. And if you have a 10-game schedule and maybe you don't have the in-state rival, that's the natural game that you would like to continue, then maybe there is no upside to playing a game like that. But, I would think that some of them might want to continue and or at least get another game in somewhere along the line. The difference is those games I mentioned would come on that last weekend where several SEC schools already have games that fall into that category, LSU and A&M. Well, I have to look at the schedule. I know it's been changed this year, but historically, LSU and A&M and Alabama, Auburn, and all of those games, they come right at the end.
Reese, I've gotten this question a few times, and we've got it here in our app. I don't know how. I know you guys are waiting on schedule like everybody else, but what are the plans for game day? It's been a long time since you guys were back in the studio. We've got people asking about Corso. He's going to get the headgear. Can you do all that in studio? What plans are you making right now for game day?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't assume that we're going to be in studio. I mean, it's certainly a possibility. Nothing is off the table. My stock answer to this is if there is college football, there will be college game day. Exactly what that'll look like, we're still working through that. We've been planning for weeks to exhaust all of the contingencies so that we will be prepared no matter what that is, whether that is in an empty stadium, whether it's in a controlled environment with a limited crowd on campus or a controlled environment with no crowd on a campus, whether it's stadium exclusively, and I'm sure the studio is a possibility. But we would prefer to kind of maintain the authenticity and the nature of the show by being on the road if it can be done safely. And that means, safe for all of our people who are working, the camera people. We have a crew typically in normal years, pre-pandemic, some of this may have to be adjusted, I understand, of probably 100 people or so who have various jobs who are with us week to week, whether it's the camera operators or the people who build the stages or the truck drivers, all of them really important parts of our team and our family. We have to make sure that we protect them from a health standpoint too. As for Lee, obviously we'll do what he wants to do and what is the safest thing for him to do. So, but the headgear we can come up with a lot of creative solutions so that staple of the college football Saturday does not go by the board if we are able to play, which hopefully we can do so safely.
And please tell me that in these plans somewhere, y'all are keeping whoever's in charge of the Wazoo flag up to date so that can continue as well, right?
That is a really, really good point, because that actually came up on one of our calls a couple of weeks ago when we were planning about how we would handle that, because the neat thing about that streak is that we don't facilitate that. Now, we lent them a hand 2 or 3 years ago when, through no fault of their alumni network, one of the package services, I don't want to disparage anyone, but it rhymes with red hex, misplaced the flag temporarily, and once they located it, it was not going to get to site on time. The reasons for that, I don't know. We have a flag that is on display in the ESPN cafeteria. So that was the one time when they requested you guys have a flag, can you get it there? And we were able to do that, and we got it to their alumnus who was in charge of it that week. So we don't facilitate that from week to week. They do that on their own to maintain the genuine nature of it. But in these times, we will do what we can to help them as long as they want to continue that tradition.
Reese, y'all do such a great job as well on game day and going to other places, not only the biggest game in the SEC or the Pac-12, but y'all will go to FCS schools. You will go to a group of 5 school if they are worthy of getting college game day. And I've been asking the question all week, what do you think happens with the group of 5 and some of these FCS conferences? Obviously, the Southland is something we pay attention to because we have multiple schools in our state play in the Southland Conference. And so what do you think happens there? Because we haven't really heard a lot from their commissioners. Do you think they're just waiting on the SEC, the Big 12, and I guess the ACC just made their decision yesterday?
Yeah, I think it could potentially put the conferences at the FBS level in the group of 5 and in a difficult situation in terms of scheduling, at least in terms of financial. A couple of those conferences, those leagues are big enough to have a pretty significant schedule in terms of just playing each other. The difference is that a lot of them really rely on those guarantee games that they get in the early part of the season to help them make budget. But that may have to be put to the side for a while. As far as those at the FCS level, there are the Colonial, I believe, has suspended play as a conference, but given their members the option of continuing to play. That is something that James Madison, at least, is planning to do, and a couple of others as well, trying to piece together a schedule as best they can so that, they've got a tremendous program they want to continue. So, I think it is certainly a difficult situation for them, and scheduling would be tough, particularly if some teams in their own league aren't playing, in the leagues across the country. So the answer is I don't know what happens to them, but I imagine the places where football has become really important to them, they'll do everything in their power to play, even if it means sort of a scaled-down version of the season.
Reese Davis, we thank you so much for your time. We'll look for some good news, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, you guys stay safe and healthy. Talk to you soon.
Reese Davis from College Game Day. Come back, wrap it up with Ask Us. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Richards Honda is constantly looking for smart ways to make things easier for you. So we created our buy from home option. It's the easiest, most convenient way to shop for a car, all from the comforts and safety of your own home. Just log on to richardshonda.com, click on the buy from home button, and with a few simple steps, your new or pre-owned car will be ready for pickup or delivered right to your door. It's fast, easy, and smart. Try it today at richardshonda.com.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the need.
Coming up on Friday's OTB, a huge day as we recap Pelicans Jazz and welcome Pelicans GM Trajan Langdon to the show. Plus the latest on the SEC potentially going conference only, and Cole Kubelik talks college football. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
Time for a quick Ask Us. Ask us if there was a 104.9 LSU Trivia Jeopardy game show, who would give us the most competition? For LSU stuff, Jimmy's been around the longest. He's pretty good with individual game scores and stuff like that, but I don't know. Probably
as far as shows, I feel real confident since Hunt's a part of our show, and obviously with
our
you,
show would win.
Okay.
They're just asking who would give us the most competition. Ask us is Clyde Edwards-Helaire game at Bama the single best performance you've ever seen by an LSU football player?
It's the grittiest, most determination, all those words that you want to use. Yes, it was one that will go down forever.
Mm-hmm. Ask us, Kim or Chloe?
Neither.
Ask us, National Whistleblower Day. What's the most recent time you had to tell on somebody? Haven't done that?
Snitches get stitches. I don't do that.
Ask us, Hanny, do you miss going all over town to do the show remotely? I miss the people that, we got to be, develop very good relationships over the run of the show. And so I miss not being able to see a lot of the people that I saw all the time. But up until the interview today, the technical part of it.
You did that to yourself.
I did.
Yes.
I did that. Let's see.
Can I ask you one? Ask Hanny?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Who wins tonight, Pelicans, Jazz?
I like the Pels. Pels are a 2 or 2.5 point favorite. I like the Pels. Also like the Clippers tonight.
Ask us. Over, under minutes for Zion. We'll set it at 15.
Over.
Yeah,
just
I know Jen said 10 to 15. I think you push the limits a little bit more just because of the situation.
Ends up being like that. Remember the first game back that he went just a few more than we
And then
thought?
at the end, he kept scoring. They're like, yeah, just stay in.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody for participating in today's show. Stay tuned for AFR 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny.
Our family of restaurants are fired up, and we can't wait to see you safely. Little Village downtown. Call or go online for offerings and hours. Palermo Ristorante. We're serving great food right now. Little Village on Airline. Reward yourself. Stabs in Central? Nice. Stabs Prime on Jefferson. Steak or seafood? Introducing Sammy's Grill on Highland Road. We're socially responsible